One travel brand.
Vandache, the Chennai Silk Sin Mega Combo Sale, Summer Chill Out Sale.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Misano World Circuit. Marco Simoncelli here on the beautiful coast, just off the eastern coast of Italy, close to Riccione and Cattolica. We're here for the third round of the Michelin 24-hour series here in Europe with a start of two amazing circuits in Mugello and Spa. We head to something completely different here at Misano, a circuit that's very well known to fans of motorcycle racing particularly, but less well known in sports car racing. But for multi-class racing, I think it's going to provide a fantastic spectacle, just part of the grand tour which we have around Europe here in the 24-hour series. We head to Paul Ricard as well in July. That is next up before our traditional curtain closer in Barcelona at the end of September. Weather, well, it's been up and down over the last couple of years. The teams have had a little bit of track time over the last few days, but the weather right now, relatively cool for this time of year, just around 17 degrees Celsius, but it's the dark clouds that loom over the Misano World Circuit that are providing some question marks for our teams going into qualifying. We have had free practice earlier on where we had wet into dry. What will we have here? At the moment the track is dry. ish, but we'll see as the cars go out for qualifying. My name is Peter Mackay. I'll be taking you through all of the action here in the Global Broadcast Centre alongside Joe Bradley, who we'll get to in a minute. But down in the pits, we have Diana Binks and Nick Damon.
Hello to Peter, hello to Joe, hello to Diana. Hello, Diana.
Hello.
And hello to all you out there in YouTube land. We are having a marvellous time in Misano, but despite being on the Adriatic coast, and despite it being the latter end of May, weather not really what we ordered. Peter's kind of glossed over the fact that some of the heaviest grey clouds I've seen in a long time waiting to deposit a large amount of liquid on the track, may or may not hit during qualifying, but it has been a weird set of weather statistics we've had, hasn't it, Di?
It is, unlike last year, it was actually boiling hot. In fact, it was too hot, we all thought we'd combust. But yeah, the weather conditions here are slightly changing, so I guess all the teams now going out in this qualifying session just have to be a little bit careful and adjust to whatever happens on track, because obviously getting that track position is going to be key for them. Yeah,
just to revise the memory of how the Creventic qualifying works, or perhaps if you're new to Creventic, just tell you how it works. We have two separate qualifying sessions. The GT3s, we start in about an hour. The other classes, which is the GT4, the SPXs, and of course the GT4s, they will be coming out, the 992s will be coming out in a second for three separate sessions, so 15 minutes each. Each session needs to be driven by a different driver, and your amateur driver, if you have one, needs to go in the first session. One set of tyres, one set amount of fuel for all three sessions. Any sort of deviation from this and you're out of qualifying, you're full on Penske back to the back of the grid if you do that one. But it's going to be very, very exciting. Three separate sessions. And of course, Di, with this weather, it's likely you might have some be wet and some be dry.
It could well be, and of course that's when everything will change strategy-wise. So the three sessions, 1, 2 and 3, the teams will come back in, put another driver in, have a 5-minute break, next driver into Q2 and Q3. But it's the sort of AM driver that has to go out in that first session anyway. So I would imagine a lot of them will be looking to try and get out there in the dry to get that session underway. But it's just sort of slightly spitting now as we are waiting for the track action to really hot up.
I can't know, Philly, you've got exactly the right sort of people in the pit lane for this event, because we are British, Scottish and English. And one thing we know most of all about is rain. But if you want to know about the cars, well, there's two people who can tell you all about the vehicles involved in this fantastic Creventic Misano race, and that is Joe Bradley and, of course, Peter Mackay.
Thank you, Nick. Yes, this session here, we have a little bit of a mixture, actually, on this session. We've got the 992s, which are one of the most numeric classes always in the Michelin 24-hour series, the Porsche 992 Cup car, like you would see in the Porsche Mobil 1 Super Cup, or indeed in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America, or various Carrera Cups worldwide, but running in endurance racing trim. We'll also have the GTX machine, the GTX class of Vortex. They will be running the number 701, and they are running in the GTX class. GT4, we have the Mercedes AMG GT4 Adventure Engineering as well. All the cars looking to get out quickly to try and get some qualifying laps in here. And Joe, we finally bring Joe Bradley in. Joe, this is a fairly nervy start to proceedings, I would say, with weather looming, and you kind of want to get some laps in here in this qualifying session.
Hello, Peter. Hello, everybody. Yeah, Misano, it's a tricky little circuit, isn't it? 4.2 kilometers, 2.6 miles. And the key to this early start, or the first session, I should say, is we're on new tyres. It's the same set of tyres across three segments. We've got to start the AM driver in the car. He gets the benefit of the fresh tyres, as we've got one of our 992 competitors rolling to a halt, and it's Stefan Perrin in the 888 numbered Porsche that looks like he's got a problem. Whether he's Control-Alt-Deleting that, Peter, but that might bring out a red flag, and as indeed that is what has happened. So that gives me an opportunity to continue talking and telling you about what's in store for these drivers. Certainly the drivers that are starting this qualifying session, they will be able to maximize that tire performance. We know the Michelin tire has a little bit of an optimum lap that will come in after about 2 or 3 laps and stay there for about 3, but then after their run, and I think a lot of the teams will be giving their drivers maybe 3 laps and in, not wanting to take too much out of the tire because they want to optimise their run on the tyre for their pro drivers, if indeed you have indeed got a pro driver. But a little bit of a truncated start with no times being posted, Peter, as the cars left the pits. That 888 numbered Porsche. That looks like the 911 numbered car, actually, not the 888 car. That's the 911. That has ground to a halt, and that is the 911 Racing Porsche 992 entry. He's got going again. He has Control Alt Delete, so that'll be a very quick restart, I would hope.
Yeah, it's 911, a team that have run actually a 911 Cup car in the GTX class before, running an older car with a Manthey racing kit. So if you want to enter the 992 class, it has to run to the Carrera Cup Deutschland specification. You can put an endurance kit on it, but in general, that's how the rules are put together for that class. So they have run in the GTX class before, but this is an early issue. And this only adds to the tension as well of the qualifying session, because nobody got even a representative sector in there early on in qualifying. And speaking to a few of the drivers earlier on, they're talking about this Michelin H2 tyre. It's a really good tyre. It can just go forever. It's got amazing longevity. But if you let it go cold during, say, a code 60, for example, it's hard to switch it back on again. There's a lot of people been talking about that, and we are going to see that more tomorrow, perhaps. But this qualifying session, it's a race against the clock. It's a race against the weather. Those clouds are looking very ominous, and there is rain forecast. And all right, it's perhaps not as critical as maybe having a lap time that you are gauged by. We are going to have an aggregate of the three drivers across the qualifying segments, so perhaps not as critical, but you do want to be in each particular segment. You want to actually get your maximum out of your car and your driver, and that might not happen. Yeah, so it's just a little bit of a holding pattern here for the teams. They've been out onto the circuit and back in again. And the Venture Engineering machine, they've got the bonnet open on their car, on their V8 engined Mercedes. It's going to be Neville Jones who's taking the opening stint. He's getting the benefit of those brand new sticky Michelin tyres. Then it will be Matthew George, the professional driver in the car, who will be in the middle part, and then Christopher Jones will take the third session as the 911 machine is towed back to the pits behind a classic Mitsubishi pickup truck. I wonder what vintage of Mitsubishi pickup truck that might be. I'm going to wager late 1980s, Joe, but maybe early 90s.
Is that not early 2000s? I can't tell off the Italian number plate. How do the Italian number plates work? Do you reckon that's a 1980s? It could well be. It might have been around. It might just be a track vehicle, mightn't it?
I know that one of our camera operators, Heikki Bark, he loves his Japanese cars. So he's probably screaming right now.
Loves his Japanese pickups.
He loves Japanese pickups. He does. He sold a Japanese pickup to Kalle Rovanperä.
Did he really?
Yes, really. Yes. Grown Racing on a high. They've had a great start to the season. Car 907, Tracy Crone, the team leader, alongside his long-standing partner in Nick Jönsson and Philip Hamprecht, a really impressive. I keep calling him a young driver, but he's actually super experienced now in Porsche Cup machinery. He's won the Porsche Cup in Asia in the past as Philip Hamprecht. He's really a bit of a not-so-secret weapon.
2 second places, rounds 1 and 2. Second in Mugello, in class that is. Second at round 2 at Spa. So they're having a pretty good season. However, having a better season is the Red Camel Jordan's car. That's had a win in both round 1 at Mugello and round 2 at Spa. And the question coming into this weekend is who can beat that Red Camel car in 992?
They've just been unstoppable. We had a good chat with Paul Truswell. We've got a little bit of an unfair advantage there, don't we? Because he's part of the RSL team. So he was having a good chat with us. And he was saying that last year they just chased this throttle body issue all through last season. And the car actually had to go back to Weissach, to Porsche Motorsport. And they eventually they changed the engine and everything. And it still happened. And it turned out to be a connector that was the problem. So
as ever.
And
20 quid.
Yeah,
connector.
Isn't it? On a car that costs significantly more than that. But then they got it sorted, and this year they're back to true red camel form with Rick Breukers, who's Actually very close with his brother Luke in terms of pace. Rick's maybe got the slight edge. Rick, of course, a double winner at the Rolex 24 at Daytona in the GTD class. He's
and a Sebring winner.
And a Sebring winner, exactly true. Yeah, that is arguably harder to win. Alongside Father Ivo and Fabian Dance, very impressive amongst his AM peers, is a very impressive driver. So they're a really strong driver lineup, which really helps in this type of racing where everyone has a minimum and maximum driver time that you have to get depending on what class you're in. But the Red Camel team, they've actually, because they have no pro driver, Rick Breukers is classed as a semi-pro, so they have no minimum or maximum drive time.
Right, that's going to be interesting.
The only thing they've got to worry about is going to the 2-hour maximum stint length. That's all they've got to worry about in terms of driver time.
And that's why they're so strong.
Yes.
That's why they can perform in a strong, because they can maximise the two young lads. No disrespect to Fabian or Ivo, but yeah, Luke and Rick are the quickest drivers out there. Looks like we've got a green flag, or a green light at least, at the end of the pit lane, and we are going to resume this session. Yeah, because the clock started ticking down. It hasn't yet.
Will be resumed in 35 seconds.
Right, okay.
So we're ready to go for this 992 class. Red Ant Racing last year as champions. They've actually, with their own team, they've progressed up to the GT3 category, but they're still running a car now in 992 for the Ajith Kumar outfit. I'm
just looking at the length of that pit exit road. That's a good third of a mile. What's that? That's a good quarter of a kilometre.
Yeah,
and that's why we thought they've been released. They haven't. They're now being held at the the proper exit. The red light still glowing red there at pit exit. So we're not quite underway. They left the pit lane proper, and then that exit road sort of seems to go on forever. And it's because it goes out it cuts out the right, left, right of the Parco S's. Is it an S or a chicane, the first turn here?
I'm going to go
chicane, isn't it?
A lengthened chicane.
Yeah, it's a long chicane.
Yes, it's not quite a right angle, but it's a fairly technical part through that first sector. So 13 minutes left on the clock then. So the drivers have got to get down to business here quickly, get the heat into those Michelin tyres and get them into their performing window. We saw earlier on in free practice the fastest lap set by Red Ant Racing was right on the lap record set by Jason Hart last year, 134.366. Now, that was on by far away from a perfect track. So we could well see lap records tumble like we've seen throughout the year. This new Michelin tyre, the optimum performance that it gives is providing some amazing lap times. David Faminelli breaking the existing Creventic lap record, which had stood for quite some time. He broke it at Mugello at the opening round. Let's see what we'll get here at Misano. It's kind of a circuit of two halves, Joe. It's quite technical at the start, and then it just begins to open up as you head through the rest of the lap. It's
a tricky circuit, and the thing, in my view, that makes it a very, very tricky and challenging track is that there's a lot of places where you've got to brake very heavy for some of the hairpins here, but you are braking and turning. They're preceded by very fast kinks, very fast sweeps, and certainly going into the Del Caro hairpin, that's turns 13 and 14, 14 being the Del Caro hairpin. Through 13, you're already thinking about going on the brake for the hairpin to get you slowed down. So whenever you're braking and turning, the car gets a little bit edgy. Perhaps not so much with the GT3 cars, which have the ability to brake really hard with the ABS. However, even with ABS, some of the drivers have told us that it's still tricky. You've still got to be a bit delicate, and you're still dialing the ABS settings to give you that element of braking efficiency and also driving ability of, say, rotating the car into the turns. So it all gets far too technical for my little mind. That's why I'm sat here in this box.
Yeah, it is a cerebral track, I would say. Very, like I said, very, very well known for MotoGP. Of course, this is the hometown, really, of Valentino Rossi. It's from Tavullia. It's just about 10 minutes up the road from the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli. And, of course, the name of the circuit, Marco Simoncelli, a great motorcycle racer who sadly passed away in 2011, and he's just from Cattolica, the town that we're staying in, just a couple of miles down the road. So it's a circuit with real pedigree. A lot of MotoGP riders come to train here. They ride road bikes, which are so fast now. They ride road bikes here on the Misano World Circuit.
Let's head down to the pit lane. Nick Damon has got a report. Nick, what have you got?
I've got a very brief report. It's a report, in fairness, I should credit the report has been obtained to me by Miss Diana Binks in the 9 and 11 team who came in. They stopped, they opened the bonnet, and is it the bonnet? Is it the boot? The bit without the engine on the Porsche. They looked at it, they fiddled with a couple of things, and then it just worked, and they've no idea why. So it's a mysterious fault on the 911, but it is now up and running. But every car is out. That's the entirety of the machines are running, and of course the one thing about the red flags, they did stop the clocks. They got plenty of time to get it, and it's spitting in the pits, but it's kind of like not particularly hard. It's not going to make it. It's going to be psychological rain at worst at the moment, but only needs to go a little bit more, and then the track will start to go off.
There's a bit of temperature in the track already, isn't there? I mean, we've had the sun has peeked out through the clouds, the tarmac soaks up the heat, so any kind of slight rain won't be a problem with regards to performance from the track. The track's going to have to get wet before we see any difference in lap times.
The track will probably be quite green because we had really heavy rain overnight. I mean, torrential. We've had torrential rain today. It's kind of been on off. Hopefully we'll keep dry. There is a threat of rain during this qualifying session. First times are on the board. Fabien Defoe fastest with a 1:38.842 in the 992 AM class, just ahead of Nick Jönsson by 0.04 of a second. Then it's another 0.7 further back to Pablo Brasilvero for Escuderia Farón, the Spanish team. Fabian Danz sits in fourth with a 1:40 flat, and then Magnus Holmgaard running out the 992's 1:40.2, and straight away Defoe improves with his second flying lap, 1:37.762, so goes much quicker. And I think this is going to be the story of all these qualifying sessions, Joe, where they just get quicker and quicker. The track's going to improve. As long as it stays dry, the track will continue to improve lap by lap.
I think it'll continue to improve all the way through to Saturday evening. We might want to tell you about only one car in GTX, only one car in GT4. That doesn't detract from the challenge and the way these teams are going to go about their race weekend. They're going to treat it as if they've got 30 cars in each class. They're going to go about their race, and they're going to their race strategies, and it's all about the way that they cycle through the drivers, isn't it? They're going to give the drivers the experience of, you know, double stinting the tyres and really optimizing their runs, and it's good experience for when they go forward to the remaining rounds of the European season. Paul Ricard, Barcelona, not that far away. And you mentioned the championship, Peter. It's still all to play for in all of our classes. We'll talk about the 992s at the moment. Red Camel and RPM are there, first and second. Third place for Holmgaard at the previous round at Spa. Third place, I should say, for Sebelju Racing at the first round at Mugello, but with 2 more rounds to go after this one. You know, this is the middle ground, isn't it? This is the odd number. After this one, time begins to tick away for gathering points. So the pressure's going to be on. So you want to maximise your run here and want to gather as many championship points on the run-in to the championship proper and the finale at Barcelona. The
big finale, yes. The Fermin Velez Trophy, where, you know, anything can happen at that race. 24-hour race, you can have an issue early, and all of a sudden the championship can twist round. And with a bigger entry, we get more entries for that 24-hour race. Therefore, if you have an issue, there's more cars between you and potentially the car chasing you. So yes, you're so right. Getting those points in the bag, and I know that for Venture Engineering, for example, they've had competition in GT4 over the first 2 rounds, but they've talked to themselves and said, we know that we want to win the championship, therefore that part of winning that is being here at every round, and that's the way that they're looking at it. Let's get down to Diana Binks, who has more information for us down in pit lane.
Thank you. I'm with the Red Ant team, the number 93. Mark Goossens is the team manager for the team. Now, Mark, a lot of our listeners will know you from sports car racing. You have a lot of experience, professional driver. We're here in Misano this weekend, a lot of new drivers out there on track. What are they likely to expect?
Well, it's difficult to say because, first of all, I don't know this track. So it's funny you say that because, I have a lot of experience, but I've never raced here myself. But, you know, it's a track like any other track. It's it's a technical track. It's not the longest track, not the highest speed track either, but there's a lot of flow in there. You need to keep that momentum going, and you know, like any other race in endurance, it's important to stay out of the pits and have a clean nose.
So for someone that hasn't been on this circuit, how do you prepare yourself for this one? I mean, we arrive here not expecting to quite have the changeable weather conditions. There's a spit of rain, but it's not wet. How do you prepare yourself?
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the weather, obviously we cannot control it, but everything else we just prepared. We prepared exactly the same as for other races. It's a very good and a very positive thing with Creventic is that we have 2 days of a lot of track time. We can have 8 hours of track time on Wednesday and on Thursday. So about learning the track, we got plenty of time, and you know, we just work on it methodically with the different drivers. And you know, like I said, staying out of trouble is a big step, and you know, we didn't manage to do that on Wednesday, unfortunately. We had an incident on track, the car going into the wall with the backside, as you can see on the grey bumper there. But you know, we refocused, we reset with all the drivers, and you know, again, very methodically we've been building up the pace, and you know, I think it's looking strong now. We just need to survive a 12-hour race, and hopefully weather is good for us.
And how important is it for the team members and the crew members to all be part of the developments that go on over the weekend, to give you confidence, or a driver confidence, that they will be on it the moment you arrive back in the pit lane?
Well, you know, we're very lucky because we have a very solid crew that has been around for a number of years now. We've, you know, kind of been at the front of the 992 class for I think about 3-4 years now. So we just keep doing our thing. We do the same thing all the time, and people are asking me what's your strategy for the race, but you have to come, or to take it as it comes, and be active when you need to be active. You know, it's a lot of how you call it, improvising, yeah, that we need to do when the situation occurs. But that's the same for all the other teams. So we just hope that we have the right experience on board between the engineers, myself, and also the drivers, because they know what they're doing.
Mark, for the moment, thank you so much. We'll catch up with you over the weekend, I'm sure.
Perfect. Mark Goossens, a true sports car racing legend. What a guy to have at the head of the Red Ant operation. 3 minutes left in qualifying. We had while we were speaking to Mark Goossens there, we had a little spin for Ralph Ome in the 900 Elf car. That car currently sits 10th in the overall 9th in class at the moment. Pablo Brasilvero is top of the timesheets though, the 137.342. He's 3/10 clear of Nick Jönsson in the RPM Racing car. That's a great performance. The Scuderia Farron, they're a new team to Creventic Racing anyway. I'm delighted to have them here, but this is a new thing for them. They haven't quite had the pace so far this year, but that is right on it in qualifying. 137.3, and you know if you're 3/10 quicker than Nick Jönsson, then you know that's a really good benchmark to have. Magnus Holmgaard, third place for Holmgaard Motorsport, 137.7. Then a 137.7 for Fabian Dufour, who's gone into the pits. That's enough for him. Fabian Dance sits in 5th, and Stefan Perrin in 6th. And of course, Joe, this set of tyres is going to be the tyres used for Q2 and Q3, so you want to do your quick lap and then not put too much else into them. Yeah, Peter, we're going to see cars now come into the pits after putting in their flying lap, one out past the pits, perhaps another one past the pits, just to get the tyres up to their optimum operating temperature, and then the time will come. So Pablo Brasilvero Scuderia Farron on the provisional pole, that 37.3. Last time by was a 142. So just cooling the tyres off a little bit, not so hard. They'll not cool off that much though with a 142, but we're seeing a lot of these cars now coming into the pits. The next car that we expect to see coming in will be the Nick Jönsson RPM Racing. Incredible to think that Nick Jonsson's classed as an AM driver as well. I mean, I remember Nick and Tracy Corona being a partnership now for over 20 years. And I first got to know them in the US, and it's just fabulous to see that dynamic, that relationship, that a driver who I mean, Nick was Tracy's driver coach, his driver mentor, and to still be together and still be competing at, you know, relatively high level, FIA sanctioned international motorsport, international sports car racing is where they're at. And you know, I mentioned them in the championship, 2 second places. They'll be wanting to go one better and spoil the Red Camel hat trick. I'm pretty sure they've only come here to do one thing, and I think
Peter, we've only got a couple of cars still out there.
Well, Marcel van Berlo in the number 925 car run by Bas Kutten. He's trying to improve on his lap time. It's 1:39.8 at the moment for Marcel, who's driving with his two sons, with Kai and Glenn van Berlo. It's a fantastic story. I mean, Kai van Berlo particularly has a lot of experience in racing in America. Actually studied out in America, studied at Miami University, but his father and two sons, and I always think this, you see it a lot, particularly in the Michelin 24-hour series here with Creventic, is, you know, you think what a special experience to go and race with your family.
We've got quite a few family teams that we can talk of. The Venture team out in the Mercedes, they had a big off, didn't they, at round 2 at Spa, where Chris Jones put the car off on cold tyres. Lack of experience, quote unquote, from Chris himself. He said that was what it was down to. They've got a new car, they're back out, and again the pleasure and the passion is there on a family level.
So Pablo Bras Silvero, a great qualifying time with a 1:37.342, and he's caught up with Nick Damon.
With him and his translator. Pablo, talk us through that session.
¿Qué tal fue la sesión?
Ha ido muy bien, había un poquito de humedad, había tenido que gerir eso, pero bueno, al final hemos buscado un hueco y hemos podido sacar el tiempo.
Yeah, session was okay. We had a bit of worry about the rain, so we wanted to get out quite early. But overall, it was a very good session and good time. Now we see how we go for Q2 and Q3.
There's been a lot of rain over the last few days. How has that affected the track? Is it very green and not very grippy?
A pista está verde, ou seja, por causa da chuva, sentes com pouca borracha ou sentes que não afetou muito?
No, creo que no afectó mucho, un poco, hay un poco de pérdida de grip, pero quitando un par de curvas que no se puede tocar el piano, el resto se puede hacer.
Yeah, the track doesn't seem to be that much affected about the rain. Still says that a few curves are still a little bit damp, but overall it's still almost the same as yesterday. The rain wasn't that heavy, so it didn't wash away a lot of the rubber.
Thank you, Pablo, and good luck for your team for the next 2 sessions.
Thank you.
Well, they're a welcome addition to any grid, aren't they, of a 24H series race. Great to have them along. Scuderia Faron, and they mean business, don't they?
They do. Yeah, it's great to see them get some. This isn't a race result, but this is a huge step in confidence for the Scuderia Faron team. They had a difficult start at Mugello, a little bit of a difficult start in Mugello. Spa, they were getting there, and definitely this is the way to kick off their Misano weekend.
Meaning business there with them flashing lights to get the other drivers and making them aware that I'm coming through. I'm on a hot lap here. I'm about to put this car on pole position. Who's next up? Do we have information as to who's out in the car? I suppose we're going to have to trip the driver ID light at the end of pit lane before we find out who is next in that car. The 949, the other teammates, there's another 2 teammates. We've just seen Pablo Bras Silvero put that first time in. Pedro Miguel Loreno Bras is next, and then Fernando Gonzalez. So Fernando Gonzalez, I'm being told in my ear, is next driver in that rotation, and we'll see just how. I was going to use the term aggressive. You've got to be aggressive, haven't you? You've got to be. It's kind of a controlled aggression when you're driving any race car. You've got to keep that aggression under control so that you don't go out of control.
And they're in a good position because they have a complete AM-graded driver lineup. So what that means is, in this qualifying context, is that they can basically put any of their drivers in any order they like. A little bit like the Hoffer car will be able to do in GT3, because they're all AM drivers. So they can decide whether they want to put their fastest driver in first or whether they want to keep them for later on. It's very much depends. And once we get into the race, we'll talk about the differences in terms of how all AM-graded drivers, non-professional drivers, are given a slight allowance to help even the playing field up. And that's very much what Michelin 24-hour series is all about. It's about competition, but giving everybody a fair chance and giving everybody an opportunity to compete and get that satisfaction out their motor racing. I mean, driving a Porsche GT3 Cup car, or even, you know, a Ferrari 296 GT3 around circuits like Mugello, Spa, Misano is a joy in itself, but to compete is another level of joy entirely on top.
I've been a big fan of this way of going qualifying that we have done for the last few seasons now, the last couple of seasons now, of having an aggregate score from each of the 3 qualifying segments, where each of those segments has a different driver, unless you've got a 2-car team, of course, but each of those drivers able to put in a contribution to that qualifying position. It's not just about plugging the hotshot superstar driver in and sending them off on a brand new set of tyres and optimizing the run. It's about managing those tyres by putting the amateur driver in first. The amateur driver could easily destroy those tyres. And then if that amateur driver drives badly, you know, he's got to drive the car correctly. The engineer's going to tell him how to bring the temperature up, how to get the best out the tyres, and how to keep the life in the tyres, and come into the pits after that first segment and hand those tyres in a usable state to the next 2 drivers, and especially this one, because this is the bit where you put your pro in to get the best out of what tyres your AM driver has left you. Well, there should be a bit of life left.
Let's go through the drivers then for Scuderia Farron. This is in order of how they sit in qualifying right now. Will be Fernando Gonzalez. Then it's Tracy Crone for RPM Racing. So they're deciding to put their 2 hot drivers first and third. Martin Vedel Mortensen will go third. Will go in this qualifying session in the 3rd place Home Guard Motorsport car. Then it's Ajith Kumar for Ajith Kumar Racing. Rick Breukers in the Red Camel Jordan. So Red Camel Jordan's deciding to put their hot shoe in for the 2nd session. Paul Meyer in the 888 Sepp Lejeune Racing car. Then it's Martin Rump for Milner Motorsport. Kai Van Berlo in the Van Berlo Motorsport by Bas Kooten, so they're putting their hot shoe in now. Philippe Bonnell is in the Vortex. Then it's Martin Schluter for Neumann Elf, and Matthew George, again the hot shoe in that car for Venture Engineering, will take this qualifying session. So a real mix of strategies here, Joe.
There is.
Some teams deciding to get their non-professional driver in, some deciding to get their professional or hot shoe driver.
There's obviously a reason, but you know, I would think the optimum way is to put your hot shot in. Talking of hot shots, we've got 2 hot shots now. Nick Damon is talking to Nick Jönsson.
Nick, it's really threatening to rain. You know, how have you sent out Tracy saying, "Oh, be careful"?
Yeah, well, you know, when I was out there now, it started raining pretty hard between 10 and up to the start and finish here, and now we start seeing drizzling here as well. So we are basically doing a recon right now. He went out on the stickers to see how wet it really is over on the other side of the track, and from there make a decision on what tires to go on. But right now here obviously seems to be too dry to go on wet, so you're about to burn them up, and it depends on what it looks like on the other side. But I think hopefully if it doesn't get more rain here now, we hopefully can stay on the dries and get a qualifying session in at least.
So you think the 10 and 11 around the back there is actually strong enough for wets then?
Yeah, I think going into 10 and the whole back stretch there will start getting pretty wet, and especially if you really track out and use the whole track and like curb and like the concrete behind there, it's definitely getting wet. I had a couple of situations there.
And that's the quick bit, isn't it?
That's exactly right. That's the quick part over there, so you have to be very careful.
Now, I understand this car had a slight issue electronic-wise earlier in the day. What was it? And I take it it's fully fixed as the car's going round.
Yeah, basically there was some sort of a throttle body issue, because these cars, as you said, are so technically advanced these days, right? So this car has basically 7 throttle bodies, 6 on the banks, 3 on each side, and then like a main one that everything kind of goes into. And one of the throttle bodies had some sort of a electrical little kind of issue. So we decided to basically change the engine, because we could have taken everything out, but since we had the luxury of having a fully dressed engine in the truck, instead of trying to take parts off and put back on, it's always a little bit of a danger as well when you start doing with sensors and stuff like that. So we decided to just put a different engine in that we know is fresh and very good as well.
So yeah, so you put a different engine, but I take it if you're looking at a Porsche Super Cup engine, what are they within? 4 or 5 horsepower between each into a unit, or do you get a special one?
Not even, I don't think. I mean, when they hand it out to the customers, I don't know exactly the percentage, but I used to kind of have my own shop building engines, and we never had any engines leave our shop that was not within 2 or 3 horsepower. So I'm sure Porsche at least there, and so we never felt any differences really between engines, to be honest with you. They deliver a fantastic quality car and quality parts every single time, and if you have something that break, it's more bad luck than anything else, I think.
Now, no offence, Nick, but you're incredibly experienced. You've been around for many years. Coming to Misano is an interesting circuit because I suppose in many ways it's been designed for motorcycles, and it's also very flat. What's a unique challenge that present to a car driving racer?
Actually, it's very suitable for a race car. I mean, it's a little bit tight, maybe turn 1 and 2, and you have a hairpin down there in 4. But otherwise, I mean, I think the track is really fun, great configuration. And because you said it's designed for motorcycles, same as Barber Motorsports Park in the States, where I raced a lot too. I think they might have a little bit different kind of tarmac here because the grip level here is extremely high. And I think that's also why we see a lot of brake wear here every year. Last year was obviously, as you said in the driver's briefing, very, very hot. And we really struggled with brakes last year and kind of overheated them a lot. And hopefully the cool weather this year will be a little bit better. But I think because of the grip level out here, I think it makes it a bit more suitable to a car than it would have been if it wouldn't have been as high grip as it is.
And the question, I suppose, also, is it a raceable design? Is it a raceable circuit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have really good braking zones into 1, into 4, into 8, into the 12, I think it is. So I think so. I mean, you have 3, 4 really, really good opportunities to pass here, and also long straightaways you can draft before kind of popping out trying to pass someone. So I think it's a really raceable circuit and a great facility at a beautiful place.
Great, so thanks, Nick, and good luck for the next couple of sessions.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I could sit and listen to Nick Jönsson's input and expertise all day. Just amazing intel there on how the whole process of what's going on track works. Right now out on track, the weather is changeable. We heard from Nick there saying that on one half of the circuit it's wet and one half it's dry. For a non-professional driver, that is a really difficult situation because you've got to get the temperature into the tyre to get it to work, and if the track is wet, when that provides it, that just cools the tyre and it can send you into the danger zone basically. So that's really, really tricky. Track time wise, lap time wise, the best we've seen so far in this session is a 1:37 flat set by Kai van Berlo, which is the fastest we've seen so far. But the times that are being shown in this session, Joe, they aren't quite as much of an improvement as we might have thought.
I'm not sure the track's been affected at all because we had Kai van Berlo, as we said, at 1:37 dead, and then he just gone 1:37.6, but he put in a purple sector in sector 1. He's just come around, and he's going to be putting in his next sector 1. We'll keep an eye on that to see what he puts in, whether he's going to be, and that's a purple, meaning he's the fastest driver. He goes purple again through sector 1, 25.404. That's as fast as anyone has gone through. Paul Meyer in the Cineulagam Racing Porsche ahead of him, 25.45, 500ths slower than that through sector 1. It's you know what, 992, it always delivers. It always delivers a very tight and competitive race, and right now we've got a very tight and competitive qualifying session because it's all just tipped on its head. It looks nothing like we finished sector 1 or section 1, sector 1 of the qualifying session. Get me sectors mixed up now. Sector 1 on the track. I'm talking about section 1, the first element of this qualifying session, bears no resemblance to what we're seeing now with these aggregate and average lap times now, with 2 lap times being able to be accumulated. We've got Martin Vettel Mortensen in the home guard car. His average time is a 38.0. 2/10 slower than that on average is Rick Breukers in the red camel car.
Kai van Berlo hitting a little bit of traffic on this lap, coming up against 2 cars, the home guard car and the Ajith Kumar racing car. So Kai van Berlo just, he would have been quicker there, 1:37.158, so he lost, I reckon, half a second in the last corner. So van Berlo is going quicker. He's making up all the time in sector 1. He's now getting held up big time behind the home guard car. So 6 minutes, 20 seconds to go. Kai van Berlo trying to make his move. Now, Kai van Berlo knows these 992 Porsche Cup cars better than most drivers, actually, because he was in the Porsche Carrera Cup North America in the year it was launched. They were the first championship to get them, even ahead of the Super Cup, so he knows the car well. Rain, it
looks wet.
That
section of the track looks wet.
The middle part of the track, yeah, from sort of turn 6 down to turn 8 now is looking like there's a bit of moisture out there. So are these lap times actually going to be improved even with the clean air? Paul Meyer actually said it's the best lap of the session for Cineulagam Racing, 1:36.8. So van Berlo not the quickest of this segment of qualifying.
Yeah, that's the fastest time we've seen all day. However, the track beginning to visually look a little bit damp, let's say, and it doesn't seem to be affecting the performance of these cars, and maybe we're just getting a little bit of spitting out there. We heard Nick Jönsson describe this is a very high grip level track. So we're going to have a pretty wet track before we seeing it being affected. But it takes very little rain to affect the performance of these cars on these slick tyres on a damp track. We're not seeing it lap time wise though. We're just waiting for the next element of lap times to be completed, and then we'll get a better idea. Peter, here we go. They're just about to come across the line now. The Holmgard car leading that train of cars around at 1:41. So that's right off the pace now.
Yeah,
I think
that was a scrub lap because of the little disagreement with Merlo car traffic for Holmgard. But Martin Rump getting it right up onto the curbs on the exit of the final corner.
And there's Rick Breukers completely making a mockery of everything by and it's been disqualified. So that last lap time there, a 1:37.2.
Still 4/10 away from Meyer's best.
Yeah, that put him to the top of the table for a second. That put him at the top, yeah, on average. But he's dropped back to third now, so it's changing all the time now.
Yeah, so Paul Meyer is still the quickest in this second section of qualifying with a 1:36.8. And that is then, but with Rick Breukers, who's now gone absolute best in Sector 1. So does Breukers have some time up his sleeve? And he's always good in these conditions. When he won those Rolex 24 and Sebring wins, those were in changeable conditions. I think one of the Daytonas was in absolute monsoon conditions, but he always goes well in this Porsche 992 GT3 Cup when it gets wet, when it gets tricky out there, as he comes up to head towards the timing beam for the end of Sector 2, and he's personal best in Sector 2. So this could be a hot lap here from Rick Breukers. Let's get him over the line, and then we'll get down to Diana Binks for some more information from you. 3.5 minutes to go as Breukers now into the final sector. He's right on that time for the fastest time of the session, and that would then, if he was able to do that on average, that should put the Red Camels team up onto pole position in class as they come out the final corner now. Rick Breukers losing all the track room and maybe a little bit more there. 1:36.792. That goes provisional pole in 992. Let's get down to Diana.
Thank you. I'm with Venture Racing. Max George has just jumped out of the number 421. Max, what were conditions like out there?
Yeah, actually fine. I think, like I caught them saying as I got out of the car, the track's super high grip. So the only place I was really feeling anything was in Sector 2. The rest of it's psychological, which in itself is a bit of a battle. But I mean, it's great fun. Any car around here on fresh tyres is a dream to drive, and I had a great time, even on the slippery bits.
Well, Venture are sort of leading the GT4 class, so is that on your mind at the start of the weekend, really? Are you looking to capitalise as much as you can?
Yes and no. We're quite methodical with how we go racing. We run every event focusing on ourselves, and it's worked so far. Obviously, we had a really unfortunate incident at Spa for Chris. We're here to bounce back from that, but the job remains the same. We do ourselves, even with being the only car on the grid. Our aim is to execute the best and the fastest race we possibly can, and then when people come back to race against us, hopefully they don't stand a chance.
From a team perspective, how do you build the confidence? As you said, Chris had that incident at Spa. How do you build the confidence coming back into the next event?
Slowly, and as a team. It's definitely not an individual sport, so every single person in the team has played their part on getting back going again, from building a new car to helping Chris build the confidence again. And yeah, it's been a process, but we're here now. The guys are driving great, so yeah, can't complain at all.
How would you describe the challenges of this circuit here in Misano?
It's quite interesting. For me, it's a circuit of two complete halves. The first sector is quite slow and super technical, which actually Neville, from a rally background, is suiting him perfectly. And then the back half is all high speed and about confidence and really trusting the car. So yeah, it's got a bit of everything. But yeah, it has its own challenges. Me and Chris, being mainly circuit guys, we love the back section, the fast bit, and Neville's about the only person who really loves the first part, but we're all getting on with it as good as we can.
Thank you so much.
No worries.
Matthew George, true professional, part of the Venture Engineering squad, and he's a co-driver for Neville and Christopher Jones, but he's also coach as well. That's the thing, is there's many, we were talking about this earlier, many drivers who are quick, but being able to be quick and coach as well, and to keep the whole team going. He's very much the team. If there was a captain's armband, he would be wearing it with Matthew George. Into the last 30 seconds of this 992 qualifying session, and purple sector in Sector 2 for Martin Rump in the Milner Motorsport machine. So, excuse me, Rick Breukers, excuse me, the one above personal best for Martin, and then it's been bettered by Rick Breukers. So we could see some late improvements here, Joe Bradley.
Of course, you looked at it, it was purple, and as you said it went green, because Rick Breukers is out there in Sector 3 now, getting towards the final stages of this lap, through the kinks of turns 11, Cavoni, into 12, into 13, braking for the Del Caro hairpin, and then out through Misano corner towards the checkered flag, which flies to bring to a conclusion this second section of qualifying for 992, and to the top of the screen with a 36.607 to give them an aggregate of a 37.6, which is the quickest average, or it was, because that's just been bettered by Martin Vedel Mortensen, because I think, Peter, that Rick Breukers time has been deleted for track limits.
So the qualifying 2 time for Rick Breukers is showing as a 1:30.
Yes, but it's not. It doesn't class as a qualifying lap. It'll stand on the timing screen as his lap time, but it's disqualified.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it's what he has been classified as a 1:37.808, but he has done 2 1-minute 36s. But
yeah, well, I mean, can if you're going over track limits.
Correct. So on the last corner, particularly, Rick really pushing the track limits. So of course, this is a motorbike circuit, basically. I mean, that's its predominant use. It's the home of, it was Valentino Rossi's home MotoGP race. It's hugely well attended. It's a motorbike track. The World Superbikes come here as well, and therefore it's got a lot of tarmac runoff.
It's got low curbing as well.
And it's got low curbing, exactly. So you can a car can really abuse the track limits a lot more. I mean, in MotoGP they have a lot of track limits issues here.
Oh, do they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, a lot.
Because the low curbs even don't upset a motorcycle.
Yes. So a car is no issue at all.
And as a driver, you just let the car breathe and just soak up that that momentum. You don't want to stifle the momentum. And to be honest, once you get to a corner, turn in, plant the throttle, you are letting that car breathe. You can't. It's not like driving to the shops where you can deviate round the roundabout. Oh, I need to be a little bit more to the left or right. You are having to. You're kind of a passenger on the exit of corners, just letting that racing car just fly. Just momentum carries you, and if that takes you over the curbing, you're over the curbing, and there's very little you can do about it.
So Seb Lejeune then, they sit second, because that 1:36.820 for Paul Meyer has counted. That's showing on the qualifying 2 column on our timing screen. So they sit second on the average at the moment. Paul Meyer, who won races all the way back when, do you remember Super League Formula?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, where you raced for a football club. Ryan Dale, who's driving for the Aero Motorsport
Never understand
team.
that.
Yeah, he drove for Rangers.
Did he really?
Club, and a lot of his dad's friends were big Rangers fans, so they were delighted about that. But
were they at all interested in motorsport at the time?
Some, yes. And he said, look, I've never had more hate come into my fan inbox than from people who are not Glasgow Rangers fans. Anyway,
yes.
Those who know will know. So Rick Breukers
there it is there.
the best time, but was right over the curb, and you have to have the tyre on the curb, and he was right over. Rick Breukers pushing it to the very limit. So that means that Paul Meyer was quickest in that session. Let's get down to Nick Damon and hear some more about that session.
So, quickest in the session, the car's going very well.
Yeah, feeling good when we started here, actually. Never did a lap here with the Porsche. But in the end, we are very happy with the balance of the car and how quality went. And the thing was no track limits. And with the drops of rain, it was spectacular to drive, so good.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation, because the back half of the circuit was way wetter than the section 1. I mean, it must have had a very different approach, those 2 parts of the track.
Yeah, it wasn't like wet. Only the curbs were getting a bit more wet, and you needed to be careful there. But in the end, the track, the tarmac itself, it was perfectly fine. And you could push. The only thing, don't go over the limit here, because we have a lot of track limit points. And for me, that was the key to stay on track and get those lap times in.
How much of a margin were you giving yourself? Because obviously in the driver's briefing it said as long as one wheel stays in contact with the curb, because the curb counts the track here, were you making sure, I'm going to have at least 2 wheels?
Yeah, no, I think sometimes it was 1. But the difficulty is that you don't know what to expect, because on your screen you see a lot of the raindrops coming. And then it's just about having confidence and just go for it and seeing how it will go. But the margin is there, because in practice we were 1.3 seconds quicker than now. So still, yeah, the track is not at its best.
So where do you feel, obviously you're 1.3, is that something you can feel in the car, the time's disappearing, or is it just something, because it's just lack of grip everywhere, you think, oh, I've no idea where that 1.3 seconds has gone?
Yeah, it's a little bit everywhere. Because of the rain today, 2 times of rain, the track can be a bit less grippy. That's what we felt on track, actually. So that's the main thing, I think.
Right, going through this qualifying session, obviously your teammates in now, I mean, what is the sort of the tyre drop-off? We hear these Michelins are really, really good for a few laps. How many laps is a few laps before they start to plateau down?
I think what we saw in practice for our car, the tire stays alive for a long time. And in the end, okay, you get some oversteer. But in the end, I think with 40 lap old tires, we still did well. And we still had a good time. So I think we will be fine in the race.
So as it wears, the balance goes more oversteering?
Yeah, for us it does. Yeah.
Is that something you're comfortable with for the race, or will you try and perhaps neutralise that more for a 12-hour event?
I'm fine with that because I like a good front, and the front of the car is really working well for the less experienced drivers or the bronze drivers. It's a bit more risky in the fast part if the car is moving around on the rear. So maybe we need to adjust it a little bit for the race for them.
So thanks, Paul, and good luck for the final session.
Thank you.
Paul Meyer there for the Seb Ledoux racing team. Great job from him, a driver who's been racing for over 25 years, winner on multiple occasions in the Porsche Carrera Cup Benelux, and as we mentioned in the Super League Formula, those amazing V10 single-seaters, they were almost Formula One speed.
They were, weren't they?
You represented a football club. In fact, El Bamber made a little bit of a breakthrough there. He won a race in Inner Mongolia, and that sort of put him back on the map again. And amazing. It's got some bizarre stories from it.
Check it out if you want to see it. I mean, the list of names of drivers and the top caliber drivers that were part of that. And Paul Meyer was one of those top caliber drivers that were part of that single-seater championship. Big engines, lots of aero, a lot of former Formula One IndyCar Series drivers involved in that. So check it out, Super Formula. It was called Super Formula, wasn't it? Super League Formula Racing, 2008 to 2011. Let's head down to the pits for more pit stop stuff. Nick.
I'll ask Rick, did you know you've exceeded track limits? However, Rick, Ivo and the rest of the team are forensically examining the video evidence to see whether they actually have broken that rule, which, as I said, because at the driver's briefing explained very carefully, as long as one tyre stays in contact with the curb, it's not the white line, it's the curb is the track delineation, then that is fine. So they are checking, as the Ferrari would say, we are checking to see whether they can get away with that. Rick's kind of stopped. Doorstep, Rick here. There we go. Just see it going.
So Nick, can I just?
Rick, I'm just going to go a bit word with him. Saw you watching the video. Are you going to put in a kind of complaint about the track limits?
I think it wasn't a limit, but it was definitely still touching. So, in my opinion, it should count. So, let's see what they decide. They will have a look at it now. I mean, the rule is that one of the wheels still needs to be touching the curb, and it keeps touching the curb all the way through. So,
I'll be honest with you. I'm not a steward, and I got in trouble for that before. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you did have some tyre in contact with the curb. I mean, it's obviously, luckily, as long as it is the turn 16 they're worried about, because obviously they were looking very carefully elsewhere. Have you been told it's turn 16 where you've busted the track limits?
Oh, this was turn 6. It was my last lap. Yeah, and it was that corner. So it was specifically that one. The rest of the track I was actually really safe. It was just that I had a weird bounce of the curb that I came a bit wide. So yeah, let's see. I mean, on the video it shows clearly that's touching, so I hope they will have a proper review and then see what they decide.
Was this more difficult because with the light amount of rain we were getting, was this more difficult because you kind of throw it into a corner, you don't quite sure how much slide you're going to get given the grip?
Yeah, that's difficult, and I was myself, I was really being safe on the first few laps, and I also thought that we would just be safe all the way through, but then on the end it was drying a lot and I thought the others were in, so I wanted to go pushing again. And yeah, in the end we did some good lap times. Unfortunately I had track limits in turn 16, which meant 2 laps were cancelled. And then I wanted to do a safe last lap, and I got a weird bounce of the curb, so I had another track limit. But in the end, I don't think it was a track limit.
Well, let's see. I mean, I sort of agree with you, but again, not in any way am I a steward, but in my opinion, that was fine.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rick. From
That was what I was going to ask Nick. Was it turn 16, the final turn, Curva Misano, to give it its name, was that the track limit infringement that they were talking about? Because there was definitely wheel. It was turn 6 where he was pinged for. So that I'm being told. So, yeah, I mean, that hasn't affected the situation, though, which changes all the time, Peter, with 10 minutes remaining.
That it does.
This qualifying session is by no means over. With the top of the screen changing, the 909 numbered red Camel Jordan's Porsche was momentarily at the top of the screen. That's just been overtaken by the Holmgard 902 numbered car. Patrick Steen Rasmussen has just put in a 37.531, which gives him a 37.855. That's how close those 3 drivers are in that car to get that average.
It's very close, yeah. But Glenn Van Berlo in the Van Berlo Motorsport cars put in the hottest lap of this Q3 session, 1:36.675, so right on what Paul Meyer did in the previous session. So the track is staying fairly steady in terms of pace, so that it's not getting any wetter or drier as such. Certainly for this 992 qualifying session, there's some. I think 992 is going to be the battle to watch tomorrow, because there's so many good teams with good driver lineups.
When is
Red
it?
Camels, Van Berlo. When is it not?
When is it not?
Very true.
When
very,
is
very
it
true.
not?
Yeah, and I think the Van Berlo car particularly, you know, there to have, you know, Marcel's a strong driver, but also to have Glenn and Kai in the car. Kai's a really, really good driver as well. I mean, he was racing toe-to-toe with Seb Prio in Carrera Cup North America, and Seb Prio is now, you know, factory Ford driver. It just shows you the very fine balance between, you know, getting that
break.
Yes, exactly, exactly. But, you know, Kai also has, you know, he's, like I say, gone to a top university in Miami, and, you know, will probably have a career alongside his driving as well. So there's definitely different pathways in motorsport. We can still drive at a professional level, but also have a different profession as well.
Matthew Detry is at the wheel of the 901. That's the Ajith Kumar Racing this weekend with Red Ant Racing. So a change of team behind the red, yellow and white livery of Ajith Kumar Racing. Matthew Detry currently 7th. They were 6th for a little while, but like I say, this is changing all the time, and they've just dropped to 7th there. A 39.2 is their average, with a 36.7.02. That's the fastest time that car has put in. No surprise there for the 901, though, with Matthew Detry being the fastest driver in that lineup.
1:36.269 for Glenn Van Berlo. So he's gone, critically, he's gone quicker than his brother, who also had some lap times taken away by the looks of things. But yeah, Glenn Van Berlo doing an amazing job here in the Van Berlo Motorsport car, and he's going quicker, actually, or certainly did in Sector 1. He was going quicker on this lap with 7 minutes and 10 seconds left to go. And the thing is, now in Q3, these tyres are not going in the bin, but near enough. You just keep pushing until the end, and if the track improves, then you take advantage of that time as well. Oh, we're into the 35s. 1:35.984 for Glenn Van Berlo. That is quite remarkable. For context, and this is how things are progressing in the Michelin 24-hour series, that's only 1.3 seconds off the GT3 lap record.
I think the tyre optimum life period of the tyre was negated by that damp track out back through 10 into the Del Caro hairpin. Now we're seeing the track come to life. The rain has stopped, it's blown away, we've got a perfectly dry track, so we're seeing optimum lap times. And there's Luke Breukers with a 1:36.516. That is the fastest time that car has seen. We're seeing green and purple sector times, green and purple lap times for all of our 992 runners now, because we are seeing the track coming back to this session, and now we're seeing optimum lap times.
Totally agree. Yes, Philip Hambrecht coming to the line. This could be quick as well. Where is he at the moment? It's a personal best for Hambrecht, 1:36.2, so he's only 0.3 of a second off the best in this session. However, his average across that car is 6th quickest at the moment. So they'll need to keep on clicking away there, but the track is definitely improving. So this could be just a race to the line. 5.5 minutes to go every lap. The track could just get quicker and quicker as we go. There's little bits of standing water on the inside of some of the curbs, actually. So drivers having to be a little bit careful of that as they go through, particularly through turn 5 and 6 as they build the speed on there, where, you know, coming through turn 6 onto the back straight, you're doing sort of 140 kph in a GT3 car, not much less than that in a Porsche Cup car.
4th place for Valtters Vedres in the Mulliner Motorsport car, currently 4th, a 37.567, half a second off the car's quickest time, which came in qualification 2, a 37 dead for that car, but currently 4th, so that's not a bad effort altogether. Second row of the grid for the 992 class will be where this car starts if it stays like this, but with coming up to 4.5 minutes remaining, the time's coming. Some cars have pulled into the pits. Matthew Detry, for instance, we just mentioned him. Ajith Kumar Racing, they're into the pits. That's their qualifying done, and they're down in 7th.
So at the moment, at the top of the field, the average lap time, the difference between pole position and second is 0.08 of a second on average between Red Camel Jordans, who are your provisional pole sitter right now, and I guess a rival Dutch team, I guess you could say, Bas Koeten and Van Berlo Motorsport. So right now, Glenn Van Berlo is personal best in Sector 1 and absolute best in Sector 2. He's into Sector 3 now. So is Glenn Van Berlo going to pull his family team up on to pole position with just less than 4 minutes on the clock as he comes into Curva Misano for the last corner of the lap? Is this going to be improvement? Keeps the tyre just on the edge of the curb as he comes up to the line. Glenn Van Berlo, what is it going to be? Pole, 135.751, provisionally pole by 0.07 of a second on average. So Glenn Van Berlo pushing, so it's down now to Luke Breukers to respond in the 909.
Well, provisional pole it is, because 3.5 minutes remain on the clock, and it looks like Glenn Van Berlo has backed out of this now. I think that's him done. He's put the car at the front of the field with the fastest time we've seen this afternoon, a 35.715, which certainly he's just showed us how much talent he's got, and he'll be bringing the Van Berlo Motorsport. Bas Koeten, you peel back the sticker, Bas Koeten Racing is underneath that. That's whose team is putting that car together on the track. But still a lot to play for, Peter, because we're not finished quite yet.
And Homeguard have knocked Red Camel off the front row as Red Camel are in. They're not going to go better than third right now. 136.881 by Patrick Steen Rasmussen for Homeguard put them up into second. But these are all provisional. Are Red Camel going to be walking to the stewards with their video saying, actually, no, we don't think that we because if they reinstate Rick's laps from qualifying 2, that'll change the order. So, but whether the thing is, the people judging track limits are deemed as judges of fact. So,
well, remember as well,
it's a very difficult issue.
We'll talk about this when this checkered flag comes out, because that is an interesting point there as to where that infringement came. But right now, the Homeguard Porsche, still with 2 minutes on the clock, Patrick Steen Rasmussen is into that hairpin at Del Caro, and he will come through the final turn at Misano, through 15, into the Misano curve, or Curva Misano, as we say it, and across the line, stays within track limits as well, as we get a 144.7. So that was not an optimum lap there. He's kind of cooled off there. Into the pits has come the 925 numbered car, the Glenn Van Berlo driven car, into the pits, and that's the provisional pole sitter, as you said, Peter. But like I say, just under 90 seconds remaining. We've still got a few cars out there, but I'm pretty sure that provisional pole is pretty solid. Sébastien Lejeune into the pits with the 888 numbered car of Cineulagam Racing. That's currently 5th. So I think we're getting to see cars now calling it a day and being happy with what they've got.
I mean, I think Van Berlo Motorsport, regardless, they'll be delighted with their pace right now. Marcel Van Berlo with a 139.8, and then Kai Van Berlo 137 flat and 135.7 on the slightly quicker track there for Glenn Van Berlo. He's had multiple wins in prototypes, in International GT Open, in this championship in Spanish Formula 4 and in GTs as well. He's only 23, so he's quite a young man. He's a year younger than Kai. So quite impressive run there, very impressive run there from Glenn van Berlo. But what can Philip Hamprecht do? He, at the moment, his best is a 136 flat, and
he's not quick through sector one.
He's not going quicker on the lap he's on right now. So he's only a quarter of a second off Van Berlo's best. There is still personal best being set, so there is still pace in the track. So, in fact, the home guard car of Patrick Steen Rasmussen has just improved on his previous lap. So there is still pace in the tyre, 136.7. And did he get round to get another lap? Yes, the checkered flag has not come out, so there's going to be one more lap for home guard, and they, on average, they're only 14 thousandths off pole. So could Van Berlo Motorsport miss out on pole if Patrick Steen Rasmussen can stitch together a hot lap?
Well, let's wait. Bated breath. Checkered flag is flying for the session, and that's the whole of the qualifying session as Philip Hamprecht comes into the pits with the RPM Motorsport, the bright green car, into the pits. The home guard car doesn't look like he's on a flyer here, or does he, Peter? Will the body language of that car a little bit deceiving? Turns into the hairpin at Tramonto, which means sunset, by the way.
Looking at the sector times, your lingo is you've been doing your Duolingo before coming out here, I think.
I did my column this month, well, for this race, is about the corner names. That's the only reason why I know Tramonto means sunset. Because the sun will be setting across that.
Reading tonight. Personal best sector for big moment there for Patrick Steen Rasmussen. He was personal best in sector 2, but I think it might have gone away here in sector 3. Had a big moment at high speed, coming through turn 12 into 13, clicking 100. Basically coming from 250 kilometers down to 150, then down to 65 kilometers.
Yeah,
a lot of change in the balance of the car. That might well be. Now, it's that last lap there was for Patrick Steen Rasmussen 137.4, but it all went away in that last sector.
Stays in third place, stays on the second row.
Change. Now change on our timing screen, because Red Camel Jordans are now on pole position, because Rick Breukers' lap time, that last lap time, that 136.6, it has been reinstated. So now the time, and this will update on our graphics in a moment, Luke Breukers and Red Camel Jordans are on pole at the dying moments there after having that lap time that was disallowed in qualifying 2. It has been reinstated, which has put them on pole position by an average of 0.3 of a second from Van Berlo Motorsport. Homegaard are 3rd, Milner in 4th, and Seb Lejeune Racing in 5th. Now, the difference between first in class and second in class for a 12-hour race is minimal, but these are psychologically important things.
It's about bragging rights in the hotel bar tonight.
It's about looking across catering, going, see you on the front row tomorrow, guys.
And clinching pole position while sat in the pits. Full credit to, and I'm pretty sure that either Nick or Di will be able to chat to the team and maybe get some insight as to what the process was in getting that lap time reinstated. But we're getting towards being able to call, always provisional, because we have to go through tech inspection as well, remember, to see if the cars will comply. So just shout up, guys, when or if indeed you get someone down there in the pit lane. But right now, Red Camel Jordan, championship leaders, winners at Mugello, winners at Spa, on pole position for 992, going into tomorrow's 12-hour race.
Very exciting 992 qualifying session. Can we do that again? That was great fun.
It was great, wasn't it?
Well, we can do it again with GT3s, which is coming up shortly. And that is an amuse-bouche for what we're going to see tomorrow. 2 Dutch family teams battling it out. Red Camel Jordans, the Breukers family, and Fabian Dans, who might as well be Fabian Dans Breukers, really, because he might as well be, and with the Van Berlo family as well. Fantastic stuff. Can't wait to hear from our drivers down there after that really exciting session. And Anna Binks has caught up with Red Camel Jordans.
Look, Breukers is just standing, having a the rest of the team. That was quite an interesting last few minutes of that qualifying session. When did you know that you'd set the fastest time to take that pole?
Yes, it was in qualifying. It was fun. And Rick had a track limit initially, and they looked back at it in slow-mo, and they saw it wasn't. So we got the time from Rick back from Q2, and that's why we ended up on pole. So very happy.
Well, that's great for the team. You've worked quite hard. How would you describe the conditions out during that qualifying session?
Yeah, for me it was dry, but I think for Rick and Fabian it was drizzling, so it was tricky for them. But it was very interesting, yeah.
How is the balance and the handling of the car? Obviously, you're on pole position, so you're relatively satisfied, but does it suit the three of you?
The rear is very loose, so we may have to make some setup change, but especially in the slow corner, so it's very tricky to handle the car. But if that's the only thing, we can manage for tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Luke.
Thank you.
Luke Breukers with his traditional flat cap, his Coppa Florio flat cap, which he's always got on around the paddock. Now his father Ivo there, who's in his civvies, not have to do qualifying duties there, with Fabian Danz taking it, then Rick Breukers, then Luke Breukers in that run. Yet another pole position for Red Camel. The dominant run continues.
Well, my question coming into Misano weekend was, who can beat that team, Red Camel Jordan? They're doing something right. They've got our old friend Paul Truswell, who's helping the team with some race strategy. There was a little bit of strategy, you could argue, going into this qualifying session. The way that the session is structured, you have 3 segments of qualifying, and the lap times from each of those segments aggregated to give us the qualifying time. So you have to strategize a little bit with how you use your drivers, and it was Fabian Danz who went first, Rick Breukers went second, and Luke Breukers with his traditional flat cap. Is that a Dutch thing? Certainly a northeast of England thing, but it might be a Dutch thing as well. So congratulations to them. We've got our GTX runners, of course, and our GT4 runners, Venture, Mercedes, and the Vortex V8. We look forward to seeing them run their race tomorrow, but it's all about, at the moment, that class pole position of Red Camel Jordan.
Well, for 3 15-minute sessions, there were many, many highlights. Let's discuss them through. So clouds loomed over Misano World Circuit at the start of qualifying, with a little bit of precipitation mixing things up in the opening couple of sessions. Unfortunately for 9 and Elf, early technical issues just not getting them off to the perfect start. But finally we got going with a great start to the qualifying. Scuderia Farron setting the fastest time in qualifying 1, with sadly more issues for 9 and Elf. But it was Van Berlo Motorsport who then forged to the front, with Kai Van Berlo, former Porsche Carrera Cup North America star, going to the front, and Rick Breukers taking it to the very edge of track limits and just no more, putting in a really solid lap time. Then Holmgaard came to the fore, but matched and in fact usurped by Glenn Van Berlo, the young star, 23-year-old Dutchman, who briefly put the Van Berlo crew on pole, but in the end it was Red Camel Jordans who will start on pole in 9.92 tomorrow. Right, time to wind up the wick a little bit with the GT3 qualifying, the FIA GT3 machines from Mercedes-AMG, from Audi, from Ferrari, from Porsche, from Aston Martin, the true Exotica. This is the same base car that you'll see compete at Le Mans, that you'll see compete at in the IMSA Championship all over the world. It's really the front level of GT racing. The format is the same, 3 15-minute sessions where if you have an AM driver, they must do qualifying 1, and then after that it's totally free. You cannot change tyres. The same tyre that goes on for Q1 must stay through all 3 15-minute qualifying sessions. You can't refuel the car. You have to put enough fuel in for the whole qualifying session.
And you've only got 1 set of tyres. And you're not allowed to put your fastest driver out, or your pro driver, I should say. Your AM driver could be your fastest driver. That remains to be seen as the cars are released. GT3 is the fastest class we have here in the 24H series, and you could argue, Peter, well, actually, you can't really argue. I think GT3 as a formula is the most successful sports car formula that we've had in the history of sports car racing. I would say the success of it is global. Doesn't matter where you go in the world, from Australia all the way across to even is there a GT3 championship for Antarctica? I don't know, but if there isn't, there soon will be. Just watch this space. They are really, really fantastic to watch. They are very, very fast. They are visceral in how they sound and look, and they are not easy to drive, but they are aimed at the entry-level AM driver, but not obviously on a novice plate, you have got to serve a bit of an apprenticeship before you let loose in one of these beasts. Let's have a dodge back down to the pit lane where Nick Damon has caught up with Ryan Dalziel, who can fill us in with just how quick these GT3 cars are.
Right, we've got our commentators postulating about how to go through this qualifying session, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to ask someone who knows. Mr. Dalziel, so how are you as ERA going to approach this quite complex 3 times 15-minute sessions?
Well, we're going to see if it's going to rain, and then we'll take it from there. But no, I think we've been strong all weekend. Every race we obviously get a little bit more competitive with the car and understanding the series. We've definitely made some very big gains the last 2 races, I feel. So looking for good things. I mean, you know, smaller car count than we're used to, which I think the nature of the track will actually make a better race. But yeah, we'll see what we get here.
Now, our cameraman can just pan down. You'll see you have an absolutely brand spanking new second car. I understand you had both the cars out during the free test sessions earlier this week. How much of an advantage is it to have 2 cars you can run at the same time?
For us, it's very helpful. I mean, we will do lead follow with Dwight, which helps a lot. But at the same time, we can put 2 drivers in each car, learn the process of trying to make this Ferrari quicker. So it's been good for us. This is the first weekend we've actually run both with a plan. Usually we shake down one and then save that for the next race. You know, the long races, it's hard to prep between, so we get a little bit of advantage. I think we always have 1 car ready to go for the next race.
Explain to us the process. Obviously, you know, Dwight is the man who you really want to bring forward. He's normally the key. The amateur driver is normally the key in all these races. What is the process to get him up to speed, to get those last few tenths out of him, which you carry out during the course of the weekend?
Honestly, seat time, and that's why Creventic was a big draw for us. We looked at different options for GT racing, and I think just the practice time, Wednesday, Thursday test days are really important, not just for Dwight. I mean, a lot of these tracks, people assume that, you know, I know a lot of these, and, you know, Misano's new to me, Mugello was new to me, so for us as a team, it's key to get seat time. But at the same time, you know, we're trying to help Dwight. You know, you're kind of only as good as your AM driver without full course yellows that we're used to in the States. So from that point of view, we're just trying to get him up to speed as quick as we can.
So someone's experience as you coming to a new circuit, I mean, will you have done, you know, laps on an iRacing or a simulator first, or do you just do it for real?
I'd love to say I do iRacing, but that's not for me. It's I find it more difficult than doing this. Now, you do love it. It's nice nowadays. There's so many online videos. I have friends, obviously, that have done a lot of these tracks, so I lean on some of my buddies in GT racing, and we try and get some videos before we get here. But again, you know, there's no replicate for actually just going and doing it, right? And you can do all the sim work you want. Once you get in the car and you actually feel what a track feels like, that's the best way to learn, do 2 laps.
And so when you turned up here, anything surprised you about the track, or was it pretty much as you expected?
I actually love it. I mean, we did a test in the US on Monday with the prototype at Barber Motorsport Park, which is predominantly a motorcycle track. So we went from one kind of tight, twisty, high-speed track to this one. I think it's going to be great. That's why I said I think the car count is actually a good thing. I think traffic's going to be difficult. So, you know, we'll see the whole back straight, obviously the longest straight. There's not really an opportunity to pass. But I like it. It's fun.
And you out next or third?
I'll go third. Nico next.
Thanks, right. Great stuff. And that's the second driver who's mentioned Barber Motorsport Park. Perhaps we should go there with Creventic as well.
That would be an event. Barber Motorsport Park. That is such a cool circuit. It's great undulate. It's actually totally the opposite of this, actually. Weirdly.
Yeah, it is.
As Ryan rightly says, it's a motorbike track as well, but it's very undulating.
A Scottish driver that has done very little racing in Europe, to be honest. I mean, he's been in America for 20 years and it's forged a pretty successful career as a professional racing driver as Ryan Dalziel. And it's great to have him in this series, I've got to say, and great to have ERA, a team like that, and great to have a driver like Dwight Merriman who loves his racing. Dwight out there at the moment, and currently 4th fastest so far. These are the first times that we're seeing being posted, though, Peter, so there's a lot of evolution in this qualifying session with regards to the 3 segments going forward. And with Alexander Prinz, RAFA Racing, got to mention, they are championship leaders coming into this round 3.
And not not just in the AM class, they are championship leaders full stop.
Overall,
much like what Herbert and Ralph Bone's team did last year, where they won GT3 overall as well as GT3 AM comprehensively. That is not out with the reach of RAFA Racing. Alex Prinz is in the form of his life. The laps he's putting together in qualifying and in the race, he's just been immense. And the whole team have performed really well. It was truly a really emotional moment seeing them win the AM class but get an overall podium at Spa. It was an overall pole too. I mean, really, really impressive, and seeing how they're going to kick on from that, both here at Misano, a track that's, you know, everyone's not got a huge amount of mileage on, then going to Paul Ricard in the baking heat of July, and then the finish off at Barcelona, where a track that they all know really, really well. But there's a lot of good entries here in this GT3 class. Red Ant Racing, we spoke to their team manager Mark Goossens a few moments ago, and they're moving up as the reigning 992 champs into the GT3 category. And I like to see that when you've got a championship where teams move up the ladder and they go for we've got a problem now. That's for the number 81 Era car. Don't know which corner it is, but we have Dwight Merriman off in the gravel. The front wheels of the Ferrari 296 are in the gravel. The rear wheels are not, but that car doesn't look like it's going anywhere. 7 minutes and 25 seconds to go, so if you want to get a lap time in, now is the time to get it, as at the moment it's Oliver Campos who goes to the top with the E2P Aston Martin. They've had a really difficult season. So many technical issues have thwarted them.
Of that sequence of corners, Del Parco, to give it its name. It's the first chicane, isn't it? 1, 2, and 3. It's the right, left, right, and that's the right hand part.
It's actually flat. It's flat.
Yeah, it's an acceleration zone, isn't it? You come through the second part, which is the middle bit of the chicane stroke S's, and it's an acceleration zone. So that was a traction issue there for Dwight, and the car just coming around. I'm not quite sure how indeed that happened. Maybe, you know, we were talking about the settings that you can adjust on the traction control, but it certainly he broke traction there.
Amazing amount, you know, how they're playing with on the Ferrari. There's 7 ABS settings from one, and they're actually not just, they're adjusting it over the stint, but not in a linear way. They're back and forth and back and forth, and it will affect how much understeer or oversteer the car has. Amazing.
You go from 1 to 7,
and then back
to 5, back up to, you know, that sort of thing. And they were telling us that they've got a little memory card on the tape to the inside of the door that will tell them what those settings are, just to give you a little bit of an aid memoir as you're hurtling round at 160 miles an hour through the kinks of Curvone out back.
And then a load of different traction control settings where they can actually program it in by GPS corner by corner. Quite remarkable. The Bosch electronics that are fitted to these GT3 cars, they are so sophisticated now. How they've developed. You look at a GT3 car, even from 10 years ago, they've come on a long way.
Massive.
And I don't think there's many who would argue that the Ferrari 296 has been one of the biggest step changes in what a GT3 car is and what it should do, and the rest have been catching up since.
You have a look at that Ferrari without its bodywork, and it has the look of a prototype. The modular way that it has been built. I can tell you, we've just entered the second half of this first 15-minute segment, and the red flag has been brought out while we retrieve the number 81 Ferrari of Dwight Merriman. That car has been helped back onto track. It was just a little tour back onto the hard stuff and out of the gravel. Dwight now making his way around, and he will enter the pits and whether or not that is the session over for this car, we'll wait and see. He's going to have to rid the car of the gravel that he's picked up in those front wings. But with 6 minutes and 52 seconds to be exact, Peter, we've still got a lot of this qualifying session to get done.
That we do, and E2P Racing with their Aston Martin are on the top of the shop with a 133.7, 4/10 quicker than Redan Racing. E2P, a Spanish squad. The E2P is the Escuela dos Pilotos, the school for racing drivers, basically. They ran an older spec 991.2 Porsche over the last couple of seasons. We had Alvaro Parent driving with them, but we've gone with a new Aston Martin for this year, the Vantage Evo, with, of course, the red and gold, or red and yellow of the Spanish flag across the flanks.
New car for E2P, aren't they? I mean,
yes.
we get used to seeing E2P racing Porsche, don't we? But a change of mark for this one, the Aston Martin, and it's always a little bit of there's always a few growing pains just to get to grips with the systems on the car and how the car works, and the vagaries. Completely different car, of course. The front-engined Aston Martin, front-engined rear-wheel drive, completely different way of getting and getting the best out of that car from an engineering perspective.
Yeah, totally different. They had an engine failure at Mugello, where they dipped back into the gravel, and basically that backward motion just cooked the engine. Wow. Really strange one, really strange one. But I think they'll be getting on top of the package now. Certainly speed-wise, they're getting on top of the package. It's the Continental Audi, run by the Simpson team from the UK, heads out of pit lane. That car has got David Pogasayan on board at the moment. They had an eventful Spa, to say the least. They had a few incidents and what have you, but they've got a quick car under there. Air and Motorsport back into the pits and have greeted Diana Binks.
So I've just been chatting to the team, and they were wanting to have a look around the car as it came back in. So it has just arrived, you quite rightly said, and I can see the team members, 4 team members are allowed around the car when it's on that pit apron, just to check everything out. They look like they are pretty satisfied. They've taken quite a bit of gravel out of the front. And they are just preparing to get that car back out on track. They were concerned about the tyres, but I'm guessing because they're not doing anything and they're going to fire that car up in a few seconds, which they have done, and Kral has gone back out onto the track now.
Yeah, the concern will be whether or not Dwight has flat spotted the tyre, so a quick visual inspection of the tyres and the tread of the tyre will show signs of whether or not, and you can easily when a car spins, it's very easy to wear that flat spot through to the threads, and your tyres are then absolutely, they go in the bin. And that would have, thankfully, it looks like the team are happy with that, and Dwight's gotten away with it and back out to continue the remaining 5 minutes. And this is the key moment, isn't it, in this 15-minute session, Peter? You have got your AM drivers plugged into these cars, and what we are not seeing, perhaps, is the tactic I thought we would see, where you get the AM driver, do his 3 laps, maximum of 4, and bring them in. We're not seeing that. Everybody's staying out there, and that might have been helped somewhat by that red flag.
What's puzzling me slightly is that Redan Racing, they're 0.4 of a second off the pace, which might think, well, that's not such a problem. The issue is they've put their quick driver in Ayrton Redan, and you would expect him to be relatively a little bit quicker, but he's of course that driver lineup is all semi-pro, so there's no AM, so they can't obviously put an AM in for qualifying 1, so they have the open choice. And I would have expected a little bit more pace. It might be that the Mercedes not as well suited to this track. Could be, I don't know. But there haven't been any changes to the balance of performance in Spa, where they were absolutely rapid. The Mercedes was really fast there. So, but it is a very different circuit. It couldn't really be much more different than
absolutely.
Spa.
Yeah, it's it's got its own challenges, and that's I like the mix of circuits that we get in the 24H series. We go to some iconic places, don't we? Mugello being opening the European season. We then went to Spa. Well, there's been a lot written and said about Spa-Francorchamps and the history that is there. Misano has its own personal history. Yes, it's centered around motorcycle racing and very, very high level, top level motorcycle racing, but it's forging its history of, certainly with us in the 24H series. From here we go to Paul Ricard, another iconic circuit down in the south of France, and then we round off at the Circuit of Catalonia, and all of those circuits that I mentioned there, completely different in nature, completely different in how you address and get the best out of your car, both from a driving sense and an engineering sense.
Konstantin Dressler for Proton Huber competition goes up to third, a 1:34.6. Great time for the Porsche driver. Konstantin Dressler actually drove in two different cars at Spa. He drove in the Proton Porsche, but also one of the Ferraris too. So he's decided to go for the Porsche this time, and they up to third at the moment. It's RAFA Racing. Alexander Prinz right now sitting fourth. Best time so far, a 1:35 flat, but he has gone personal best in Sector 1, not so in Sector 2. He's just coming to the end of Sector 3 now, into the final corner, Curva Misano, and can he improve on his lap time now in that V8 6.2 litre Mercedes? And yes, they still do use that motor in this GT3 car. It's long out of production in the road cars, but they still use the 6.2 V8 for the GT3.
He went quicker. That was a personal best of 34.489, but not quick enough to change that position on the timing screen. Remains in third place. We've only got one car inside the 33-second lap times, and that's the Aston Martin, the number 90 there of the E2P Racing, Oliver Campos, putting in a 33.779. He backed that up with a 33.9. So that is a very, very quick car, as they call it a day on that number 19. Oliver bringing the car into the pits, as well as the Ayrton Redant Racing Mercedes. So the two cars that are quickest in the session already pulling the plug on this session, knowing that that's as far as we want to go on these tyres.
Redant have only put in 4 laps, whereas everyone else is 6 laps, 7 laps, 8 laps for E2P racing.
That's what I thought everybody would do, Peter. I thought everybody would do 4.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? So Redant Racing, yes, they're maybe playing the long game, and maybe Ayrton Redant, because he hasn't, you're saying that's a bit surprising. You would think he'd maybe be comparatively more quick, but actually he's maybe keeping a little bit of tyre life for those following in behind him. Yeah, now absolutely. Absolute best sector for Konstantin Dressler in the Proton Huber competition car. So is Dressler going to put Proton Huber onto the provisional pole? As due to Audi, Arūnas Gilgauskas, the Lithuanian squad, Juta with the Circle K branding on the side, they're looking to try and improve from where they are. But Dressler now, he is getting towards Sector 2 timing beam now, opening up that 4.2 litre flat 6 engine of this 992 Porsche, which has been with us for a couple of seasons now, through the super quick Carvoni, 240 kilometers an hour through there, then 250 as whoa, the car snaps away at just over 200 kilometers an hour there for Konstantin Dressler. He's into Sector 3. It's gone away from him a little bit in Sector 2, but he was absolute best in Sector 1. Let's see what he can do in this final sector. Dressler up to the final corner, then down the gearbox he goes, third gear for this final corner. The car looking quite snappy and just back forth on him a little bit as he tweaks about with the adjustments in the cockpit. 1:34.3. It is an improvement, but still fourth quickest.
Yeah, 34.354 is the car's fastest time. However, he remains on the provisional second row behind Alexander Prinz and the Hofer Mercedes. Still out there on the track, the number 56 of Denis Vasek, the Scuderia Praha Ferrari, that's taken the checkered flag, so that's going to be no more lap times from that car, with a 35.084 from Denis right there at the very end. 8 laps completed, that's the most we've seen. There's only the Alexander Prinz Mercedes done 8 laps as well, as we get Prinz moving up. 34.056 from Alexander there, right at the very end, right at the checkered flag, and that gives him a lap time that puts him onto the front row. Not quite as quick as the Aston Martin, but that'll do for now.
It will do, yeah. And he found all the time in the last sector, which isn't that long. The last sector you're going, well, actually it is, to correct myself there. It's basically from the middle of the back straight through Carvone, through turn 12 and 13. So it's the fast part of the circuit, and then the slightly slower last technical section. It's really complex, actually. So Campos then on pole position at the moment for E2P Racing, and they've got their hot shoe Antonio Cinero to jump in the car potentially next, and then or they'll go Pablo Berguera and then Antonio Cinero to finish off the 3 qualifying sessions. Haas RT, they sit in 8th at the moment. Peter Gwellink's 135.3. Great squad, Haas RT. When you think they're only 2.5 years into their racing career, you think they've been around forever. You know, you think they've been around for so long, but they're still a very new team, but have got proper people at the top of the organisation. Chris de Donker, the team principal, and Sandrine Haas, the co-founders of the team. But I didn't realise how prolific a rally driver Chris de Donker was in an S2000 Abarth Fiat. I didn't realise that. I read that this morning, but a real expert on endurance racing and running a team in that environment.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of working alongside him at Spa one year in the Fun Cup race there. Good character as well, good motivator of people. As we get to the checkered flag then, Peter, and
so RAFA Racing, I think job done, I would say. Provisional front row at the moment, but it was Oliver Campos who set the pace in that early qualifying session in that Aston Martin GT3 Evo to match the latest road car of that Aston Martin. Campos, a winner of the 500 kilometers of Alcaniz in the past. He's been racing for over 20 years. Race winner in Spanish GT and indeed in VDV Insurance as well. And his young teammate Antonio Cinero, a very impressive young driver too.
Quite ominous, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
when you've got Cinero to plug into the car as well.
Do you know what? They, as a team, they've had such rotten luck, really, for the first couple of rounds. They deserve a boost. That team are due a boost, I think.
As well as that, we've got Pablo Guerrero as well. I'm not sure which one of those are going to go first. Let's head down to the pits, though, as Dyer's got someone to chat.
I'm with Oliver Campos from E2P Racing, who you were just talking about there. How satisfied are you with that time you put in on that qualifying session?
Well, it was very, very satisfying for us and for all the team to do a great job, and in the end we be able to qualify the car in first position. After a bit of a rough start of the year, I think we start to get ready and very solid team. So I think this is a good race for us to show our pace.
As a driver, can you feel you've put in a quick time? Does it feel quick to you?
Well, as a driver, it's easy to be always not completely satisfied. You always make some mistakes here and there, and this was the case in this lap. It was not perfect for me, but it was enough to be in first position. And now let's see how the rest of the qualifying goes.
What were the conditions on the circuit like? We've sort of seen there's a couple of damp patches, I think, still out there.
Yeah, I didn't see any water puddles or any humidity in the track, but it was definitely cooler than yesterday and today. So it took for us some time to warm up the tires, so we couldn't totally use the edge that the new tires give you. But the track is dry, all the curbs are dry, so it's safe and fast to drive.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Oliver Campos, a provisional pole sitter. I love the race suits that the E2P guys have got. They look like American astronaut suits, but without not the suits that they wear outside the space shuttle, the ones they wear inside the space shuttle. Yes.
I noticed they were HRX as well, which have kind of like they're quite seamless, the HRX style of the suit, and I think that's what makes you think that.
But they've got
as well as the colour.
The badges with like their little rocket on it and everything. Yeah, it's really. It's very much a deliberate attempt, that's for sure. It is Antonio Cinero, the semi-pro graded driver. They're a real hot shoe in the E2P car, who's going to take this qualifying session.
That makes sense. Before we take any more life out of these tyres, I mean, yeah, the car had only done, what did we say? That was 6 laps, I think.
No more. They did about 9 or 10, actually. They did more than the Red Ant car. The Red Ant car tyre age eight laps for on the tyres of the E2P car, just 4 for the Red Ant car, which has been taken out by Ayrton's brother Yannick. Hofer haven't gone out yet, but hopefully will do. Tim Muller will take out the GT Racing Audi, and we'll get the rest. The rest, actually, that's interesting. There's
taking their time, aren't they?
Just taking time, yeah. Scuderia Praha taking their time as well with the number 56 machine. Scuderia Praha have been a Ferrari dealer for over 25 years in Prague.
Well, they were a big part of this series. I say not so long ago. It's probably pre-COVID, the pre-COVID years. Championship winners, race winners, and that team certainly know how to put a Ferrari together and go very quickly in these races.
Yes, they do. So it's going to be Max Partel taking out the Hofer racing car in provisional second at the moment. Vasily Vladikin for Continental Racing by Simpson. For Haas RT is Matisse Lismon. Joseph Kral, so Joseph Kral, the hot shoe in the Scuderia Praha lineup being put in. Dwight Merriman took in the Aero Motorsport car, but it hasn't gone back out for qualifying yet. Dominic Ang has taken the Viper Niza Racing Mercedes, the Malaysian squad. So a few teams just taking it a little bit more steady before qualifying.
Yeah, I noticed the Aero Motorsport Ferrari hasn't come back out already as well. So they may be just checking that car over a little bit more just to get rid of whatever little bits of gravel that were picked up in that Dwight Merriman spin. Nico Verdonk is the driver. Now, Nico is no stranger to this series. It's great to have Nico back. He hasn't been around for, I don't want to say maybe a season or so, but back out in the Aero Motorsport Ferrari, and we will see just what sort of lap time that car is capable of, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see that move up the order.
I would think so, yeah, I would think so, particularly with Ryan Dale waiting in the wings, ready to do that third session as, whoa, a little bit wide for Antonio Cinero coming out the final corner curve at Misano. Let's see what this lap time is going to be. It's a 134.7, so 1 point, now what's that? It's just pretty much a second off Oliver Campos' best, but that lap time may well be deleted because it was quite wide on the final corner. So 136 flat for Tim Muller on that lap. He's the second to come over the line with a flying lap.
So yeah, just we're not quite up to speed for Antonio, just building up that speed. The number 93, Yannick Redont, in the Red Ant Racing Mercedes, in that kind of sinister all-black livery, isn't it? It's kind of like the Dark Lord sort of livery on that car. It's got the red and blue. Looks black in the sunshine. It's an actual dark blue and black, isn't it?
I think it's had some parts replaced that
I think it has.
as well.
Yes, maybe
it works.
The front end.
It works. They say don't mix blue and black in fashion. I don't agree.
I think it does.
Agree. It's had some parts replaced, I think. We've got more news from Hofer Racing. Nick Damon has run it down for us.
Flying session, they just all bedded themselves in, so let's get someone who's bedded himself in already. It's Alexander Prinz. The excellent qualifying form continues.
Yes, not perfect like it was in the last two races, but it was just up to the driver inside the car. That did not happen with, again, P1. I was a little bit unsure with turn 4 after my parking in the gravel in the free practice there, so I took it a little bit more defensive. And also in my fast lap, I had a small mistake in turn 14, where I just thought to myself, just screw it up now. And it happened directly because I braked too early. So it's always when you're not focused completely. So it was just up to me. I just brought all the best sectors together. So I'm happy with P2. So let's see what's going on now. And yeah.
Very tempting curves here, but how much is track limits in the back of your mind the whole time?
Honestly, not so much, because as a driver you feel it quite well, especially here in Misano. Then I had one lap time deleted. I'm still not sure if this is right, but we will check it later. But you feel it quite easy, and so for me it's not. I'm not thinking about track limits because I just focus on my line. Every driver knows it, so you have to focus yourself that you don't cross this line, and so that's it, how it goes, the game.
Great result in Spa, class win, and overall podium. How does that affect the team? That sort of fantastic result.
Quite a lot. The motivation is still quite high with everybody here in the team. But we were unlucky in Mugello. I had a mistake. I had a crash, so that's why we had to take this 5 laps penalty. So especially then in Spa with the overall pole position and then this amazing result is just a payback for the guys for the hard work and also to bring back all the motivation. And it's for sure it's more fun when you finish in the front than if you just be in the midfield, for sure, yeah.
And how are you feeling overall for this event? Do you think the Mercedes is suited to this track?
Excuse me?
Do you think the Mercedes is suited to Misano?
I think it's quite okay, but I think it is more with the new generation of GT3 cars. It fits more to these kind of cars because of all these high aerodynamic curves. But yeah, we have fun in the Mercedes. We push like hell to bring it also to give the heat up to the front guys. So yeah, it's fun. We have fun. The team is doing the very best to make the car perfect. They showed the last race. It worked amazing. So yeah, we hope for the best for tomorrow.
Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very much.
And it took me almost 2 hours to call this place Mugello.
Oh, well, we'll have to start a scoop for our sweet time.
Tomorrow's a long day.
Yeah, tomorrow is a very long day. Thank you, Nick. Great to hear from Alex Prinz there.
Keep an eye on the number 11 as well on the timing screen. Just coming into the third, and it was the third and final sector that blew it. 2 personal bests in sector 1 and 2, and then a 33 dead in sector 3. Not quite as quick as he would have liked for Maxi Partel, arguably, well, not really arguable, he is the quickest driver in that lineup.
So it's a very interesting point there from Alex Prinz, that's talking about how the newer generation of GT3 cars have that aerodynamic efficiency, which is what you really need around here. You need a little bit of straight line speed, obviously, but to have the downforce around the really fast part of the circuit and to be good in the slow speed, that needs a really good aero balanced car and have a really aero efficient car, and that's something where the newer generation cars might have more of an edge. But like you said, they're pushing on, and he's being probably a little bit hard on himself. I would say the incident at Mugello was 50-50, if not the other car's fault. Actually, I think he was very unlucky there. But they're in a great position, leading the championship. But just behind are Scuderia Praha. In fact, joint at the top is Scuderia Praha in their number 56. And Joseph Kral at the wheel right now with a 1:33.467 last time. That is a super quick lap time. Is it the fastest we've seen so far? Nearly. The fastest we've seen so far is Yannick Redon with a 1:33.4. But Antonio Cinero on his last lap improves a 1:33.7 and puts the E2P Aston Martin to the top of the shop again.
They've been swapping the pole position, or the provisional pole position, I should say. Antonio Cinero and Yannick Redon have been swapping back and forth. It's Redon into sector 2. A 36.0 was the sector 2 time for the E2P Racing Aston Martin. Redon about to complete his sector 2. We'll see just how on a par. It might be a cooling off lap, as we've just seen maximum lap times from these 2 cars at the front of this field. So we'll keep an eye on that one, Peter. But right now, it's all about who can beat the Aston Martin, and the car that's trying its damnedest is that Red Ant Racing Mercedes.
Well, it was an Audi that won this race last year, and it's an Audi that's quickest in this segment of qualifying. Matthijs Lismon, a 1:33.254. The young 19-year-old Belgian doing an amazing job, and in that Haas RT, of course, very much a Belgian flavour in that Haas RT team, and that improves their average considerably. They go up to 6th on the grid then at this moment in time for Haas RT with their Audi R8 LMS Evo 2.
And into the pits has come Yannick Redon in the number 93, the Red Ant car now in the pits. Whether this is the second segment of qualifying over for the 93, that'll remain to be seen. We did have a cooling off from both the Cinero Aston Martin. That number 90 is still out there, but whether it comes into the pits, so we may just get Matthijs Lismon in the Haas RT Audi with a 33.2. However, he's now backing out, and that's a cool down lap. We might see that car and pretty much everybody now beginning to peel off into the pits, Peter.
Watch for Joseph Kral, though, in the number 56 Scuderia Praha Ferrari. One driver who has been at the top step of the podium many, many times in Creventic competition. At silver and highlighter yellow Ferrari coming through Sector 2 at the moment. He was absolute best in Sector 1. Is he going to be, as they click the timing beam, he's personal best through Sector 2. So this is a strong lap from Joseph Kral, the driver who's won races before in the GP2 category, beating guys like Felipe Nasser, Brendan Hartley, Max Chilton, James Calado, etc. He's beaten them all in GP2. He's coming up through the final section now, the Czech driver, the 34-year-old. And is this going to be a time, the fastest of the session at the moment? It's another Audi of Vasily Vladikin with a 133.191. But can Joseph Kral improve on that? Yes, he can. 133 flat. 133.014 puts Scuderia Praha Ferrari up to 4th on the grid.
And that's the quickest time I think we've seen all day, isn't it, in this GT3 session? A 33.014 Joseph Kral. He has not lost any of that talent that we saw such promise from the young Czech driver in GP2. We thought we might see a Czech driver in Formula 1 at the time, but alas, he went off on a different tangent. But he's found a place with Scuderia Praha, and he's been a big part of that team, mentoring and driver coaching their customer drivers in whatever sports car, and of course Ferrari Challenge across Europe. They've been a big part of that since we last saw them in the 24H series. Made a few guest appearances, didn't they, last year in this series, but they're back for the season proper and level on points. So championship lead with a 3rd place at Spa has brought them right into contention. Like we said, Peter, this is the halfway spot. Tomorrow evening, when we bring down the checkered flag on the 12 hours of Misano, we'll know just who's in contention going into the final 2 rounds.
Vasily Vladikin has just lifted Continental Racing to the top of the timesheets. 132.6 for the driver of the number 69. The Audis are clearly looking very, very quick here. And of course, the Continental Racing car is an AM class car, so compared to the Pro class car of Haas RT, they actually have a slightly bigger restrictor. These Audi V10 engines, with the current balance of performance, they have two 37mm restrictors if you're a Pro car. If you're an AM car, you have two 40mm restrictors. What does that do? Brings more air into the engine, creates more power. Simple as that. So the idea is to give the AM class cars a little bit of a leg up. And Vasily Vladikin, well, wow, a multiple race winner in the Renault Clio Cup Middle East. He's taken that experience as, Matis Lismon gets it really, really pushing on the final corner as he goes over the line. Does he improve on that last lap? Yeah, he does. He improve on his best with a 133 flat. It's a
33.039, only 200ths of a second off Joseph Kral. But yeah, sorry, that was a 35.0. Yeah, so Joseph Kral 33.014. Matis Lismon a 33.039. That's how close these quick guys are at the front.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. But the Audi appears to be a very, very strong package. It's a car that's been around for so long, but it's one of the most successful GT3 cars in history, with that venerable 5.2-litre V10 in the middle. It just sounds incredible. Every time you walk into a circuit and you hear that sound, you know it's an Audi R8. Or indeed a Lamborghini Huracan, because they share the same engine, but there's no Lamborghini Huracans here this weekend. So when you hear that, you know it's that Audi R8. Amazing machine, and showing that there's still life in there. Vasily Vladikin, that is a really, really hot lap time. To give a bit of context, that at 132.6, that is 1.7 seconds quicker than the existing lap record.
It's 4/10 quicker than anyone that's gone.
That is remarkable, quite remarkable. Now, that is not a lap record until it's set in the race. We'll see what times we see in the race tomorrow, but I think that the circuit will only get quicker if we don't get any more rain between now and the race. Due to be dry in the race.
Yeah, we were talking about this race this weekend being in the wet, weren't we? But that weather forecast has changed, and no more rain forecast this evening, I believe, Peter. So the rubber that we're laying down, unless you've seen otherwise, the rubber that we're laying down is kind of evolving the track. It's going to evolve throughout the day tomorrow, We start the race at 9:30 local time. We finish it at 9:30 p.m. in the dark. Well, in the sunset, in the loaming, I would think, because what time does it get? Yeah, it gets dark about 8:30 here, doesn't it? I'll check that out, but we are going to be in the dark when we get to the finish. Yeah, but it's going to, so we're going to have a changing track throughout of tomorrow that the teams are going to have to react to with regards to how their tyres perform across a fuel stint, and indeed, do we see double stinting? I think we might even see that as we get to the cooler hours towards the finish.
Could do. Manuel Lauk improves and pulls the Proton Huber competition car up to 5th with a 133.5. But Vasily Vatikan's in another universe in that Audi. 132.6, that's seriously quick. In what are not perfect conditions by any stretch, they're okay, but they're definitely not perfect. So qualifying 3 coming up shortly. 15 minutes that will be between us and setting the final grid for tomorrow's Michelin 12 Hours of Misano. The Simpson Motorsport crew holding on to their Audi, ready to release it down to the bottom of pit lane. So Red Ant sit in 3rd at the moment. E2P Racing sit in 2nd, just behind the Continental Racing by Simpson Audi number 69. A crew that had such a difficult weekend at Spa. They're looking to bounce back from that. Let's hear more for them with Dick Payman.
You're 4/10 faster than anybody.
Actually, one of the average laps, because in practice, in the morning I had the same lap, so that was the time that I wanted to do before the quali.
Do you feel that the Audi is particularly well suited to Misano?
Yes, for sure. That's, I think, very good car for Misano, for sure.
What do you think? Why do you think that is? What do you think is the elements of the Audi that work so well here?
I think because of the base, it's quite short, and handling in Audi is one of the best in GT3 class. And there are so many corners, medium speed corners, so they suit Audi best.
Looks like the race is going to be dry. Does that make it much more simple for you, just to have a whole long dry race?
Actually, Audi is very good in wet, so for us doesn't matter wet or dry. We'll push in any conditions.
Vasily, well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cineulagam must be the fastest man from Cyprus.
Yeah, he certainly is. Well, the fastest man in this GT3 class so far after 2 segments of qualification. We've got the final segment coming up. Remember that's Continental Racing by Simpson Motorsport underneath that sticker. You just peel it back and there is the Simpson name. Julian Simpson-Smith, of course, the team principal there, putting together a very fast Audi R8, doesn't he?
Yeah, they do, and they had a lot of what they also did was they had a lot of work over that Spa weekend. They had an engine change one night, they had a lot of bodywork repair to do after qualifying, and they just kept digging in. Yeah, really impressive group of people that run that car, as we have up and down the pit lane here in the Michelin 24-hour series. Many teams that have been familiar over years, and many that have come to join over you know, even this season. Era Motorsport, a team very well known for their exploits in the United States in the IMSA Championship, with multiple wins at the Rolex 24 and at the Sebring 12 Hours in the LMP2 category. They've come here to Creventic with a new adventure with their Ferrari 296 and have approached it with an incredibly professional attitude, really. And you look at just the people that they have involved. There's some ex-AF Corsa people in who know their way around a Ferrari, to say the least. They've got good, you know, I think all Ferrari 296 GT3 customers have very good support from the factory as well. Proton Huber Competition, a team that race all over Europe. So there's lots of different stories up and down the pit lane.
The biggest story, though, Peter, is we are about to get going with the final session of qualifying. This is the 3rd and final session for our GT3 class runners. This means that we've got a very low fuel tank, so the cars are the lightest what we've seen all day. However, we've got a set of relatively worn tyres on these cars. So we've seen in the previous classes, haven't we, in the 992 class, we saw some very quick lap times coming. Now, it all depends on the equation and how the planets align with regards to your driver that you've got to put in this session and how they can get the best out of what's left of these tyres, in which on which they've got the lightest configurated car out there. So the car's as light as they're going to be. You're going to have calculated it to be, you know, get you to the flag after whatever you've planned, how many laps you're planning on running this car, whether it be 4, whether it be 6 or 8. You'll have measured how much fuel is in this car because you want it to be as light as possible, because we're down to the laws of physics with regard to that.
So last few cars making their way out on to track. So it's going to be Andrei Solutsev for the Continental Racing by Simpson Audi, who's set on provisional pole at the moment. In second, it's Pablo Bergoera taking this last qualifying session for E2P Racing Aston Martin. Kobe de Breukers for Red Ant Racing, so keeping Kenny higher, nice and fresh for tomorrow. Hoffer Racing will confirm in just a moment, but Matus Weibo will take out the Scuderia Praha car. Then it's Claus Bachler for Proton Hooper Competition. Watch that car. Jeff Michels for Haas RT. Then Nicola Michelin for Jutta. Ryan DL for Era Motorsport. And Melvin Moe for Vipanisa Racing. Let's have a quick catch-up with Nick Damon in the pits.
Well, we're actually catching up with Joseph Kral, because anything I said is nothing like as interesting as a man who's just done a very fast lap. Not quite the fastest lap, but were you pleased with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we cannot really compete with the AM cars. It sounds weird, but in the end, the BOP is a little bit different comparing to our car. So we have to fight a little bit more in the corners comparing to AM cars, which are faster on the straights. And if there is a fast driver, then of course, you know, it's pretty hard to compete. But anyway, I'm really happy with the lap time because it's reasonably good. Still, we're battling with the average, so we'll see how Matusz goes now, because that's very important for us for the overall result.
Ferrari 296, there's a couple of them here. I mean, it's an interesting track, this. Do you think the 296 suits it as a design?
Well, definitely. Every track which is, let's say, smaller, comparing to, for example, like Spa or the really big and long tracks, it's definitely better for Ferrari. I mean, when you look at a Ferrari, the car is more like a go-kart, and even the driving style feels like a go-karting. So it's really nice to drive, especially here. You know, you can really enjoy the car. And the first sector, you would say, wow, it's a really small Mickey Mouse. But anyway, with the Ferrari, it's still really entertaining.
We see you as the kind of the pro in the team, but you went out second in the 3-driver line. How do you decide who goes out first, who goes out second, who goes out third?
It's a good question, and it's never really easy to really decide how to do it. But usually we look at how the weather is, or what we want to achieve, and when we want to achieve what, because you know, you cannot change the tires, you cannot do refueling. So because of that, you need to really plan the strategy in advance to know that the first driver will try to maximize the time, but still protect the tire for the rest of the qualifying, which is never easy, to be fast and save tires. So this is a kind of way what we have, and the plan what we had for now, it seems quite good. We'll see now how Matusz goes, which is never easy to go last, you know, all these tires, but light this car.
How many laps do you get on the tires before they begin to go off a little bit?
It's interesting, especially here in Misano, because it takes quite long. I was surprised, because usually we look at like 6-7 laps, and then the peak is gone and the tire is starting to drop off. But as we try to do the long-run simulations, it lasted like 24-25 laps. I was still able to really maintain the speed, which is challenging for the driver. When you are sitting in the car, you have to work hard all the time, all the stint. But it was a great feeling that you don't really have to manage the tire that much.
Thanks, Joseph. Good luck.
Thank you.
A real superstar in and out the car, Joseph Kral, and yeah, great insight there. Now, while we were just having a word with Joseph Kral, a spin for Pablo Bergoera in the E2P Racing car at turn 9, luckily without any incident. Also for Nicola Michelin in the 71 Jutta Audi. So conditions potentially maybe a little bit tricky on those out laps to get the temperature into the tyre.
We've heard about how these tyres can cool off, and they've certainly had time to cool right off, and then how tricky it is to bring them back in. You've got to be bringing them in very carefully, maybe get some heat into them by using and overly using the brakes on the straights, just keeping your foot on the brake a little bit. As we've had a couple of harmless spins. The number 90 Aston, the E2P car, that was very quick in the first session. Now that looks like an acceleration zone spin, Peter, where he was coming through the corner and he would have been getting back on the gas and the rear wheels just beginning to spin up, which is still a cold tyre problem because you're not getting the traction.
Yeah, and potentially some moisture on the curb too. Always tricky. Now, Proton Hooper Competition did leap up to the top of the timesheets with a 1:33 flat from Claus Bachler, which significantly improved their average. His personal best through Sector 2 coming up to the line now, and it's a 1:32.8 for Bachler now. So getting towards that time set by Vasily Vladikin in the first qualifying, which was 1:32.6. So all of a sudden, the car that went into this session leading is now down to 5th, the Continental Audi. Red Ant Racing are up to the lead. Proton are in 2nd. Haas RT are in 3rd. It's all changed in this 3rd qualifying session.
You would think it was a completely different race session, wouldn't you, when you look at that? After the 2nd qualifying, it's now been tipped on its head. However, we're still very, very early days. 8.5 minutes remaining, so we're not even halfway through this final 3rd, with Kobe de Bruyker with a 1:33.2. He's put that car with a 33.6 average on the provisional pole, but plenty of most of the cars in Sector 2 now. A few cars just coming into Sector 3, so we're going to get a change once again as they come across the line.
Yeah, look, there was personal best in Sector 1 and then personal best in Sector 2 for Kobe de Bruyker. It all goes away in Sector 3, though. It's not an improvement, interestingly, for Kobe de Bruyker in the 93 Red Ant Racing car. So he was looking like he was tracking to improve on that existing time, but now Bachler is going quicker. The number 73, Claus Bachler, absolute best in Sector 2, coming into the last part of Sector 3 now for the double Sebring winner, the current World Endurance LMGT3 champion, Porsche factory driver. Up to the line he comes then for Claus Bachler. It is another improvement, 1:32.649, but get this, on average, Proton Competition still 0.02 of a second short of Red Ant.
That is tremendous.
On the average.
1:33.600, 1:33.620. That is the difference on average. So that we've got to see Claus Bachler. We know how good he is. He's already gone through Sector 1 and completed that with a purple sector time. As early as you possibly can at the apex of those 2 tight hairpins.
And that sector last year was where the Porsche was quick. When we ran it in July last year, but Porsche was quick in Sector 1 and indeed in Sector 3 last year. But Claus Bachler, using his ability, it's just gone away a bit in Sector 2, albeit he does still hold the best time in Sector 2. So let's see if this is going to be an improvement for Claus Bachler. He's just got to find a tiny bit more, but no, he's backed off. He's backed off. 6 minutes and 15 seconds left to go. Is Claus Bachler preparing for another run? I think he may well be. Yes, he is. He's just prepping for another run. So stand back.
Well, he was purple in Sector 1. He was yellow, which means he wasn't as quick as anything he's done previously in Sector 2. However, he wasn't slow by any means. Here we go then into the first sector on the next lap on the cards for this car. We're getting towards 5 minutes. We're just under 6, so we're getting towards it. He's backed off again, Peter. So he did look like he was beginning to start a fast run. Now he's backed off. He's into the Del Rio hairpin. It's kind of a 2 hairpins to double apex corner that you have to sort of make completely one turn. Just keep the steering turned, and then through the left-hander at turn 6 and onto the back straight. He will, and he's weaving.
Yeah.
He's weaving to keep the heat in the tyres. So maybe he's just waiting for a bit of traffic clearance. The team maybe telling him, what do you think?
I thought it was traffic to start with, but when he slowed down again, that was what confused me. I think, of course, the dashboard on the car will tell you what the tyre temperatures will be. It'll tell you what the tyre pressures will be as whoa. Kobe de Bruyker goes very, very wide for the Red Ant Racing car at the final corner. In fact, so much so there's a little bit of muck on the front right of the car. But yeah, coming back to Claus Bachler, I think he's just trying to get that tyre temperature and pressure into exactly the window and go for one final push. with 4 minutes and 43 seconds left. So he could actually have more than one push lap if he wished to. And it just needs to find that he's 200ths of a second behind on the average. So he's maybe got to find a 10th or so to change that over.
Well, let's not discount Red Ant Racing's number 93, Kobe de Breukers, looked really fast through the first section of turns 1. That's turns 1, 2 and 3, the Del Parco chicane, absolutely flinging it through the first part and then anchoring to get it through the left-hand middle part of the chicane. However, not a green or indeed purple, not even green for Kobe de Breukers there, so maybe those tyres have cried enough, and albeit they'll be able to perform, but just not enough to optimize and get that car back on the front row, or consolidate that already front row. As I say that, he's just put in a green sector 2 with 35.666, so whether he's on target to beat his qualifying time of a 33.2, we have to wait to see a little bit longer. We have to wait a little bit longer, Peter.
That we will, yeah. Green for personal best as Kobe de Breukers was maybe a little bit messy in sector 1 possibly, but the fastest lap in this session so far is a 132.6 from Claus Bachler. Second quickest is the Ferrari of Ryan Dalziel, 133.1. So there's half a second between the quickest of Bachler and the second place car. So the Porsche Proton Huber competition looking very, very strong, and Bachler likewise in his absolute best in sector 2. Here comes Bachler then, 24.4 in the yeah. So he's sort of not bad in sector 1. Sector 2, absolute best. Is it going to be an improvement now? It looks like he's tracking up at the moment. Coming into sector 3, Claus Bachler, the star of the Porsche, one of many stars of Porsche factory. Massive oversteer coming out through the turn 16 to complete the lap. Is it going to be an improvement? It's a 132.5, and it's pole for Proton Huber competition provisionally, but Red Ant Racing, Joe, they are going personal best in sector 1. This is going to the wire.
Yeah, absolutely. This is classic stuff here. As the Claus Bachler Proton Huber car, the orange and purple car there, continues round. Red Ant's car, the number 93, though, that's not done quite yet. With a green second time in sector 1, he's gone yellow, but a 35.7 is not a slow time, and if he can pick up time in the all-important final sector, which he's almost completed here, he's round the Del Caro hairpin, through the kink at 15, and then onto the curve of Misano. That completes the lap. He'll want to optimize the exit on here, not too far off the curb, and he flies across the curb, goes all 4 wheels off the track. That will not count, doesn't matter what the time is, and it was a 33.2 last time by, so a quick time. However, that'll not even count, and it wasn't enough to change that position. He will start alongside the Porsche of Proton Huber competition.
But the Breukers has got 2 more, including this one, if he wants them. So he's going to be pushing, and that's probably why we're noticing that he's going over track limits, is because he's just desperately trying to get that gap. He'll have the team will be on the radio saying we need 14 thousandths of a second on our average.
But they disqualify this lap as well, because he's gone over the lap at the last corner. It disqualifies your following lap as well, because you can deliberately go off track limits at the final turn, which will enable you to go quicker over the line and start a lap quicker. So you effectively disqualify yourself for 2 laps.
Yeah, very fair point. So he will then have to just prepare for one final push and see if he can knock Proton Huber competition off pole position. And Proton Huber competition, much like E2P racing, they've had great speed at times. Proton Huber particularly have had really, really strong speed. They were great in mixed conditions at Mugello, but a couple of accidents have really cost them, and they haven't got the results that they wanted. Is Misano where they turn that right? You know, they've got Claus Bachler in for the full season as Red Ant pit, so that's it. That's it then. Proton Huber competition score their first pole position of the season here in the Michelin 12H Series. Not sure if Claus Bachler knows this yet, but he's pushing on through sector 2, through the flat-out Curvone and into turn 12 at 250 kilometers an hour, but I think he's got the word now. Good enough, Claus. Great job. And that is when you've got a factory driver in the car That's the difference.
Yeah.
If you can get a factory driver in your car, they are hired by companies like Porsche for a reason.
Well, they're kept in a sealed box, aren't they? And they're only let out of the sealed box.
I swear they create them in
and programmed into whatever track you've got them. Yes, they are produced within a factory somewhere by Porsche. And Proton Huber already celebrating the pole position. We'll see a Porsche starting the 12 Hours of Misano tomorrow morning, 9:30 race start here. We'll be here earlier than that to bring you Nick Damon live from the grid as ever, and it's all congratulations all round then. And it was all down to, it's not just down to Claus Bachler though, Peter, it was a team effort from the number 73, and congratulations to all of those drivers, Manuel Lauk, Konstantin Dressler, and the driver that didn't take part is Hog Dressov, who didn't take part in the qualifying. He'd be happy though that his car, and he'll get the accolade of starting on the pole.
Oh, he'll be delighted. He'll be absolutely delighted with Jörg Dry. So Claus Bachler gets the applause from the team, and deservedly so. What a star he is.
His helmet's the right colours as well.
That's right. You got the red and.
That's a Norman for tomorrow for me.
I see where you're getting there, red and white. Yeah, I'm with you now. But I think it's potentially because of his Austrian roots. But we'll go with it.
Yeah,
it's
Sheffield United also played in red and white.
Nonetheless, for Claus Bachler, you know, reigning World Endurance Champion in LMGT3, a double winner at the Sebring 12 Hours, won the Sebring 12 Hours in the GTD Pro category just a few months ago. And that's 3 different manufacturers and 3 different teams who have scored pole position. We had Kessel Ferrari on pole in Mugello. We had the Hofer Mercedes in Spa, and now it's the Proton Huber Porsche of Claus Bachler. Great job from there, and like you say, it is a team effort. You're absolutely right. Konstantin Dressler putting in a great lap, likewise Manuel Lauk. So it's Porsche on top of the shop then, ahead of the Mercedes AMG of Red Ant Racing, and then the very impressive run from Continental Racing in their Ant class Audi. They will start 3rd tomorrow alongside their fellow Audi, the number 21 Haas RT car. Then it's the 56 Scuderia Praha Ferrari from 5th alongside the 6th place E2P Aston Martin. Duta Audi will start from 7th alongside the 8th place 81 Era Motorsport Ferrari. Hofer Racing will roll off from 9th alongside their fellow Mercedes AMG of Viper Niza Racing. So let's get a word with our pole sitter, who is with Diana Banks.
I'm with Claus now, who's just chatting to the team, and they're all congratulating each other. How satisfying is it to take your first pole position of the year for the team?
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, my teammates did a great job. The car was really great also now. And it was not an easy session because it cooled down quite a lot. It rained this morning, so the track conditions are a bit different than what we had yesterday. But yeah, we made a good job out of this, and we will start tomorrow from pole position, and thanks to the team.
A great effort by all of you guys, obviously. You know, it's very much a team effort for this. Satisfied with that result today?
Absolutely, but you know, it's a very long race. It's just the first step. It's 12 hours tomorrow. The pole position is a nice, you know, icing on the cake, but we have to get the cake tomorrow.
What do you think the conditions will be like?
Yeah, as you can see, it's raining again, so we were not sure in the beginning with the setup if it was the right direction, but in the end it fits, and that's the most important thing.
Well, the team were absolutely delighted, so I'll let you go back and carry on your celebrations, and well done for that pole position for the 12-hour race tomorrow.
Fantastic stuff. I mean, Manuel Lauk as well. I mean, 7 times a class winner at the Nürburgring 24. You know, you need to know how to drive in inclement weather if you're going to do that.
And more importantly, the Proton Huber team that they've got behind them, that's propping up the driver lineup. You know, we kind of forget that car is very well put together. It's going to be a very competitive situation for these guys and girls going forward over 12 hours. You've got to give the whole team, it's a whole team effort. It's very much a team, all team credit there for pole position, and just soak it up. just soak it up. They've only got tonight to celebrate being on the top. Whether or not they can maintain that over 12 hours tomorrow, that's what we're going to be back for, and that's what we're looking forward to seeing, isn't it?
The biggest smiles on the Adriatic coast there, I think, from Proton Hooper competition. Delighted with that. And you're right, Joe. You can order a GT3 car from a factory like Porsche, but you need to be able to know how to run it. You need to set it up, and the mechanics have to make sure everything's just right. If anything's off, you know, you're in trouble. And yeah, like, you're absolutely right. And for the car owner, for Jörg Dreisau, that's, you know, what a joy as well to see his teammates put the car on pole, ready ahead for tomorrow. Many highlights through this qualifying session in GT3. So, started off in ever so slightly better conditions than we had in the 992 session, but it was E2P Racing that got the job done early on in that opening qualifying. Unfortunately, a little spin for the Aero Motorsport Ferrari, which just hampered their progress ever so slightly. Scuderia Praha also getting ready for a good run, which put them eventually third on the grid. Scuderia Praha, of course, locked at the top of the championship with Hoffer Racing, so every qualifying position does matter. But in the latter stages of qualifying, E2P were up there in a strong position, but a difficult third session for them, and a spin just put them a little bit further down the order. But the day belongs really to Claus Bachler. What a special driver he is. So experienced now, a 1:32.5, the quickest lap time we saw all through any of our qualifying sessions. Be sure to join us tomorrow, 9:30 local time here. We will start the race, but we will have coverage, the warm-up from 9 o'clock, where Nick Damon will be walking the grid and speaking to some of our drivers. But from us all here at the Misano World Circuit, Marco Simoncelli, it's goodbye.
Q&Q Pharmacy, quality healthcare at affordable price.
Summer holidays vandachu, நம்ம GT Holidays vandachu. GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
Vandachu, the Chennai Silk Mega Combo Sale, Summer Chill Out Sale.